Whew. All right. Yo, it's been forever since I've done a live stream. Forever. We got a lot to talk about, though. Let me make sure the mic is good. I'm pretty sure people are getting the response and they'll probably come into the live. Can everybody hear me okay? Someone could put like a little thumbs up in the chat. Man, you guys, listen, welcome back. Welcome back. I have not done a live stream in so long. I logged in, I got the camera situated, and then I realized the whole entire system has changed. And so it was a struggle with that. But welcome back to the channel, you guys. This is Real Nathan Daley. This is a segment of the Crime Classroom, you guys, where I break down these controversial, these high-profile cases, and I give you my thoughts as a 13-year law enforcement veteran, you guys, from investigator to now currently on my side gig, you guys, I work as an expert witness for police policy, procedures, and use of force. So for those who've been seeing some of my videos posted, you know, I break things down to like the smallest molecule, and we have great conversations over here. And this one has been interesting, right? Nolan Wells. We've all been hearing all the theories and all the speculations, you guys, and we know how the internet does it, right? We have a lot of, I guess they call them internet sleuths or sloths or something like that. You know, makeshift investigators, people coming with all these theories. Some make no sense. Some people asking really great questions. And a lot of things. Oh, that's cool. They got little things in the middle of this. But anyways, YouTube has this new thing now where they show like half the screen for the ad. That's interesting. That's different. But a lot of people are asking a lot of great questions. They're not getting the answers, obviously. But it's not just, in most cases, we always say, hey, we wait for the investigation to finish. We have to wait for the investigation, let them do their job. But this case is a little bit different, you guys, because it's coming out of Mississippi, okay? It's coming out of Mississippi, and Mississippi, along with a lot of other southern states or some states that are operating in you know, the 1860s, okay? A lot of these states, people don't trust when it comes to the black and white dynamic, the racial dynamic, and rightfully so. All right, rightfully so. And so because of that, that opens a whole nother predicament involving this case. Can we trust the judge? Can we trust the investigators? Can we trust the medical examiner? Can we trust, you know, the DA? Can we trust anybody? You know, and the question is probably not. All right. Probably not. And it's unfortunate because they have a long history of doing what's in the best interest of, you know, white people. All right. In that area. It's unfortunate. And it's not everybody, but the reputation precedes them. And there's still cases going on to this day that are very questionable, where people feel like they haven't received the proper justice that they deserve, referring to Black victims. All right. So this case is going to be very interesting. As you already know, we're going to actually review the Good Morning America interview that the parents did, and they shared a lot of information. We're going to go over that video. I'm going to give you my thoughts on it. And then we're going to talk about the new players in this this case. All right. We got Ben Crump. Okay. I'm not a fan, for those who know my channel, not a fan of him, or Al Fraudulent Sharpton. I don't like him. I don't like any of these guys. Okay. They're race hustlers, race baiters. They're race gaslighters, the whole 9 yards. I'm not a fan of any of them. What I do appreciate from Crump, though, is that man, when he touches a case, he brings nothing but attention to it. All right. Whether his racial gaslighting ultimately works out in the end, no. In most cases, it doesn't. But what we can say and appreciate is that he does bring attention to a lot of these high-profile cases. And sometimes he can take things too far. A lot of times he does. And I'm not a fan of him. Okay. I'm just not. So I do appreciate some of the things that he's suggesting about getting independent autopsies and things like that. And again, those things are necessary for cases like this, especially when you're talking about a case of this magnitude, where the potential suspects that we're looking at come from an affluent background, right? One of the kids' stepmother's a judge. All right. And I believe the other kid, his parent is like, I guess, a doctor or a lawyer or whatever it might be. And they've lived there their whole life. Okay. So they have ties into the community in ways that a Black person is not going to have. All right. So this case is going to be very interesting. So we're going to talk about that. And then I'm going to give you my thoughts as far as investigating. Okay. How should this case be investigated? Where should we be at this moment? All right. And what are the contradictions and what does that look like? And who are the primary suspects? You know, when this whole thing first started, you know, it was really kind of anybody. All right. And then as the information started coming out, we start seeing more clearly who we should be focused on and who we need to be ruling out. The friends, no matter what anybody says, the people who are closest to them always have to be ruled out first. It's no different than a domestic case where you have a husband and a wife, and then the wife or the husband just mysteriously dies, okay? The primary suspect, whether anybody likes it or not, is going to be the spouse, and then the children, and then so forth and so on, and who argued with the individual. Then you rule people out little by little. So we can argue and say, well, guess what? The friends didn't have anything to do with it. Cool. Well, then let's see how well they cooperate. Hand over everything. Hand over your phone. Let me walk through your house, have these interviews, and then let me decide. Let me determine as an investigator whether or not you're going to be a primary suspect. And you might not be in the beginning. And then the evidence might circle back around and touch you on the back. And then therefore we have another conversation. Because that happens all the time. But what we cannot do as investigators is take their word for it. You still have to do your due diligence. And just because someone says I didn't do it doesn't mean anything. I can tell you on two hands how many times a criminal said they didn't do it and they actually did it. All right. And in some cases, I've had cases where suspects were the one that called 911. All right. After committing a murder, after committing a crime. And so there's a lot that goes into this. And the question is, were they properly investigating? Have they properly investigated everything? We don't know. All right. So I will be taking questions and things like that. I am going to open the chat up for you guys to come up and have the discussion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know some people might have some information that I might not have at the moment, but I like to stick to the facts that we do know. I will educate you guys on how these things can be investigated, what things to look at, how these investigative tools work, and whether or not they're going to be pretty effective in this situation. Unfortunately, in investigations like this, you have to base it off of the actual interaction you have with a potential suspect. Meaning, once I come in contact with you and I have a conversation, hey, I'm Investigator Daley. This is what we're doing right here. This is the situation. Can you tell me what happened? Now, based on us having a regular conversation, you guys, I'm going to be able to pick out a couple things, a couple cues. Whether or not you are showing or having you're manifesting some type of energy, or you're manifesting some type of weird behavior that's going to make me look at you different. All right. And there's certain things to an untrained individual. We're talking kids. They're not trained to manipulate the law or to commit crimes and try to get away. Not to this magnitude. All right. What else before we get into this video? How do I feel about it? Let me state what my theory is so far, okay? What it is and what it's not. There's only two possibilities involving the friends, or there's three scenarios, okay? And based on what we know now, for me, it's two. In the beginning, before the mother and the parents came out and started having the conversation, guys, this was my thought. Anybody could be the killer, okay? It's an island full of people. Anything could have happened. But for the most part, where am I now based on the new information that's come out? Either the friends killed him or the friends watched him die, okay? That's kind of where I'm at currently until further evidence presents itself. Either the friends took his life or they watched him die, right? Meaning that they didn't try to save him, or meaning that there was some type of accident, right? This could have been an accident, unintentional, and they panicked and was like, okay, guess what? We're going to have to make this look like something else, okay? Or this was premeditated. Those are really what it all boils down to. All right, it's either premeditated, they killed him for a particular reason, or this was an accident and they tried to cover it up and they're doing a poor job at it. And I'm explaining to you why I feel that way. Um, and you guys, this honestly is a very easy investigation. I'm gonna tell you why. Here's where I'm starting. Whose home did the boys first go to after they left the island? That's where I'm starting my investigation. And then the person, the friend's home that they went to first, that's probably going to be the ringleader. All right. He's probably going to be the ringleader. Why do I say that? That means that's the person called on the shots. That's the person that's like, hey, you guys, listen, here's what we do. All right. This is what we do. Calm down, everybody. This is what we do. Okay. Go to my house. Right. We're going to do this here, do this there, and do that. All right. So the person, whoever's home they went to first, that's the person I'm going to focus on. And then the other two suspects, you guys, those are going to be your weak links. Those are going to be the ones who couldn't make a decision. What do I mean by that? I mean, the leader. Who is the leader? Who's calling all the shots? Who's the most confident? Why does this person feel like they can get away? What leverage do they have outside of their four walls? Who do they know? Who do their parents know? And why did this individual think that they were going to be able to pull this off? And once you realize that, then you focus on your weak links. Those are the ones who like, hey, listen, he said everything's going to be okay. He said things are. Who called their attorney first? You guys, you know, you're pulling all your resources together. And this is how I look at it as far as from an investigative point of view. Anytime you have groups that are committing crime together, there's always that one person that's so confident. That's the one that's going to take lead, take charge. And that's where I would focus my investigation on in order to find out the weakest link. All right. The weakest link is the person that they're dragging along. Didn't really want to do it. That's the one that's like, no, we should call the police. Shut up, Tom. Shut up. We could do this. If you just be quiet and just do what I tell you, say what I say, and don't change the script. Okay. That is kind of how I look at it. All right. Let's dive into this interview. And I think it's going to reveal a lot. If you guys aren't familiar, we'll go over the timeline as well. And then I'm going to start taking questions. All right. So let's see. I don't even know if I can even play this. YouTube is so funny, but all right. So you guys are familiar with this guy. Let's go ahead and see. Hopefully they don't hit me over the head for this. All right.
We're joined by his parents, Christine and Elmore Wansley, as well as their attorney, Ben Crump. And before we get started, first off, I want to thank you for being here under these circumstances. You know how extremely tough it must be. And we can express how sorry we are for you and your family. And first question, how are you two holding up?
Taking it second by second.
Day by day.
Second by second and day by day, which we all can understand. And I just want to ask you, the friends that Nolan traveled to Horn Island with, they say that he stayed behind voluntarily. Why would he stay behind?
That we cannot answer. I can't fathom why he would.
I don't know why he would. We always taught him to, if you go with a group, you stay with a group. Mm-hmm. Even when he was in college, he would say, Dad, well, we're going to ride down to a party or something in another city. So I was out telling him, look, if you go with 5, you come back with 5. Do not separate from the group. Because I always said safety is in numbers. Mm-hmm. And he always said, yes, sir. So he knew to stay with his group. So why would he split from his group? I don't know.
So that would have been unusual for him to split from the group. Yeah. And you said he would always check in with you. Did he check in with you that day?
So that day, no, I don't. But of course, too, they were on the boat. And usually when he is out there, which it's not uncommon, he's, I think, since last year, he's been going there occasionally with his friends. And so it would always just be like, hey, Mom, I'm back, type of thing. But this time there was no call or text from him. It was from his friend.
And then too, really didn't worry a lot about it because it was his last weekend to have fun. Yeah. Because that Monday he had to report to school. We was preparing to take him back for camp to prepare for the season. So, we're gonna see. He wanted to have his last hurrah before he locked down and get ready for the season. Because, like I said, the entire summer he's training. He got more serious. He started to understand what I was trying to tell him about football not just being fun, but as you get farther in it, it becomes a business. If you want to excel, and you have to understand, and have to understand both at the same time.
And we know, Ben, that you said that you're going to do an independent investigation.
Yes.
And you said you have Nolan's cell phone and messages were deleted. How could you tell messages were deleted?
Well, his parents got the phone back, and that's something that's important, Michael, because they track this phone on Life 360.
So Life 360, but when I received the phone call from Warren, I immediately called my friend Toshima and I said, hey, have you guys seen Nolan? Because her two sons, Jalen and Javon, they grew up together. They played City League sports together. When they got into school, they played sports together. And so she was like, hey, okay, the boys were pulling up the location from Snapchat. So the Snapchat location looks completely different than the Life 360 location. So when I pulled up Life 360, it was different. It was showing everywhere the phone had been. I was like, well, it's showing that he's back on land. He's like, but no, he didn't come back with us.
Well, how were you able to get the phone?
So we tracked it, and my friend Toshima went and picked it up.
All right, let me say this real quick before we go any further. They're talking about the Snapchat and they're talking about the messages. Now I remember before initially people said, oh, the messages were deleted, and this is why we need to wait for the facts to come out. This is why it's so important. I think a lot of people on the internet, they get so carried away, you guys, with information or their own theories, and people misrepresent the information. They misrepresent the facts. It's not text message, right? So initially when this whole thing came out, this made the friends look a lot more guilty, right? It's, hey, these text messages were wiped from his phone. His phone was completely wiped. And that's not true, right? That's not true. What she looked at was his Snapchat messages were missing. And that's not necessarily uncommon for Snapchat. I haven't been on there in several years. I don't know what updates have occurred with Snapchat. But you guys, those messages and videos, you can have them set on some type of a timer where they delete every so often or whatever. So that within itself is not necessarily suspicious, but the mother goes in and discusses, and she describes like, hey, his videos are missing, his messages are missing. So that is evidence within itself, right? It leads us in something to investigate. Regardless, you guys, and I tell you that all the time on this channel, that whatever you put on your phone, the metadata on there, it can be retrieved, right? When we get phones and we get search warrants on phones, I pull up Snapchat, I pull up WhatsApp, I pull up Instagram. We can get all of that, Facebook, all of that stuff. None of that stuff is truly deleted, okay? We get search warrants and we get an entire cell phone dump of your web history, your search history, your social media, everything, even down to the time you turn on your phone, turn off the phone, how you unlock it. You guys, all that stuff is at our fingertips as investigators, okay? So when we're investigating and you have suspects who are tampering with evidence and they say, nah, I didn't do this, or I didn't do that. Well, the phone says something different, all right? So she has Life 360. We know that is a great app for family members who can track each other, follow each other, and keep each other safe. Well, Snapchat also has a GPS feature, just like all the other apps on your phone. And those, say the suspects did tamper with Snapchat, you still have Instagram that does the exact same thing. A lot of these apps track, you guys. They track. And here's what I would say regarding this. As an investigator, what am I looking at? I want to align his cell phone movements with the friend's cell phone movements, okay? That's number one. If his phone took on the same type of pattern as his friends, you guys, we have a problem, right? That's a clue. That's a clue. That says a lot. That says a lot. And I want to track all of their movements. I want all their cell phone data as well, because again, I want to rule them out as not being suspects. So the first thing you want to do, because they are primary suspects, because you have two conflicting statements. You have one witness, the female, Katie, is like, nah, he got back on the boat. The friends are saying, nah, he wasn't on the boat. Well, we already have a problem. Who are my primary suspects? The three friends and Katie, okay? I want to know Katie's information. I'm taking her stuff too, you guys. All right, and I'm looking through her information as well. Does Katie's cell phone track with Nolan's cell phone? right? Or do the friends track? And then that information alone, you guys, I'm getting search warrants. I'm getting search warrants on their home. I'm getting, first of all, I'm confiscating that boat. Okay, there's been talks, I guess, allegedly, I don't know if that's been confirmed, that the boat was being cleaned. Again, we're just talking about technology right here with Snapchat. If the suspects did take his phone and erase messages, well, what would be the reason for that? All right. So like she's saying, she saw the GPS of Snapchat saying something, and then his Life 360 saying something different. All right, so let's continue.
It wasn't like they said we got his phone, they tracked it. And that highlights all these contradictions, Michael. The fact that they said Nolan was talking to a young woman and she said that he said, I'm going back to get on the boat with the boys. The boys said that he said he was going to stay with her. And so that's an obvious contradiction. And then this video of this, you can hear an argument going where Nolan is saying, give me my freaking phone. What are you freaking doing? And so then his phone ends up missing. I don't know any teenagers, Michael Strahan, who says, if you believe that story, I'm gonna stay behind and I'm gonna leave my phone. I mean, no young person leaves their cell phone. And so then there's so many things their parents were telling us about, even why didn't his body wash up with the tide on Sunday? Why would it come on Monday? It's not adding up. And that is the problem when you think about the history of Mississippi.
Yeah, so there's so many questions that need to be.
Shout out to Ben Crump. Now, this guy can sell a case. You know, again, I'm not a fan of him, but I do appreciate the attention that he garners on any type of case. I'm not a race baiter. He hustles hard when it comes to race. But I'm not really for all that. But here's what I will say. Like he's bringing up the contradiction, that's very, very important from an investigative standpoint. We want to know all these different avenues, right? Again, Katie's a suspect. The friends are suspects. And we want to know what time, who's the last person that saw him. All right. What the investigators should have done immediately. Once a potential suspect is there, you guys, you got to treat them like a suspect. And I don't know, because we're not privy to what the actual, we don't know what the investigators are doing. All right. We don't know what they're doing. But what we do know is that they've made some statements. They've jumped ahead of the curve before receiving all the evidence, right? They're like, this looks like a drowning, you know? The problem with that is then no one saw him drowning. You know, no one saw him drowning. Like that's kind of odd, especially where he was at the time he was. It's very, very, very odd. I think one of the other things too, a lot of people aren't really picking up on is where the body was located and when the body was located. And my theory is there's two possibilities. Either he left with them and he was killed somewhere else, and then he was dumped somewhere else. All right. Meaning that he died in the presence of individuals, and then they planted his body where his body was located. I just find it odd that his body's he's gonna drown. He's gonna wash up in an area that he wasn't in. All right. It seems very unlikely. But again, I think we're just gonna have to wait and see, right? So,
and is there anything you'd like people to know about Nolan? What would you like them to know about your son?
Atera is the IT painkiller. Remote monitoring and management, remote access, help desk,
and
no, okay. Nolan. Take your time. Nolan was he was very loving. He was liked by all. It was not a friend he couldn't make.
No, we'll be right back with more for the parents of Nolan Wells and attorney Ben Crump.
That's tough.
We're back now on GMA with the parents of Nolan Wells, Christina and Elmore Wansley. And I want you to please continue to tell us what you want the world to know about your son.
So Nolan was just like this bright light, right? walk into a room, his smile, his energy was just so infectious. Like it's almost like he drew you into him. And he was just one of those people, like he always wanted everyone to be included. He didn't want anyone to feel left out. I remember one of his teachers emailing us. I can't remember what grade he was in, but basically it was math class. They had a special needs student and she asked a question and Nolan got everyone to put their hands down because he wanted that student to answer. And so student answers the question and she was like, Christine, the classroom, Nolan went crazy and everyone else started going crazy, just celebrating that child, making them feel included. And that was the person he was. Like he loved everyone. And I always told Nolan, like, you have to be careful when you have such a big heart like that. I love that God blessed you with that, but you have to be careful with that because that it's not always returned, that type of love. But he was just genuinely a good person. Like I always say, all the best parts of me are with him.
And Dad, anything else you want to add?
It's just, he's going to be really missed. I know a lot of his teammates, they all look to him as a leader. He's more like a silent leader. Not real big on words, more action, which is kind of like I was. I really wasn't real big on talking. I really wanted to show you and you follow me and people follow him. And it's gravitated.
First of all, the dad's energy, I'm going to tell you right now, he's ready to crash out, you guys. The dad is ready. The dad is giving me John Q energy. You know what I mean? Like he's ready to take any and everybody out who's responsible. And I could just, he just, like he said, he's like, I ain't really about to talking. Like, this is such a tragic and senseless. I know people are saying you can't rule out the fact that that this could be possibly a drowning. I get that. But however, a lot of the circumstances that are being brought to light are indicating that this might be something different. And again, it's unfortunate, but we're coming from Mississippi, and you got to question and double check their work because they like to cheat. Okay, they like to cheat. They're known for it. And this isn't uncommon. Yeah, can you guys hear me now? I know my mic, I'm gonna have to get a new cord for this. But I think we're just at a place right now where you just don't know, and really we just need the facts at this point. The father is ready to crash out. He's over it. And I think honestly, that if he gets pushed, I feel like the dad's already plotting what he's gonna do. But he says something that's really interesting though. And I think it might be on this clip. I think I saw a clip before, which is why I wanted to kind of review this. Let's see if he
put in the work, he worked hard, and he knew he was focused on what he wanted. And he wanted to make life better for, his family. He wanted to have his own family. He used to say, Dad, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. I said, well, son, you got to take it one step at a time. Slow down, let's go, let's walk this thing out. Let's train, let's sign our deals, let's make these teams, make these camps, put the work in, and everything else will work out. Even his baby brother, their bond got even stronger because now I have a big brother that he's finna do something. So now I want to outdo that. So his focus and his confidence has got even better. So I was looking forward to both of them having outstanding years.
Seasons,
He seemed like he inspired in the home and he inspired
Absolutely.
outside of the home. And Attorney Crump, where do we go from here? What's next?
Well, the deleted messages that Christina was going to briefly touch on, we want to get the phone and figure that out.
Backtrack on that. When we finally got his phone, me and my sister went through the phone. We went in his Snapchat. He had 2 accounts, absolutely nothing. It wasn't even 24 hours, which is how long videos and pictures stay in Snapchat. And I was just like, that can't be. Like, I've seen Nolan whenever he snaps, like when he goes and he's having fun, like he does videos. Like, there was absolutely nothing, no saved videos. And even my sister was like, yeah, that's
All right. Let me say this. This is important. You guys, the phone documents and records every time it's activated, every time an app is open. Your phone records all that. This is so important, okay? This is so important because if he is missing, all right, at the end of the day, we gotta establish a timeline. Everyone's saying 3 o'clock, who's last seen at 3 o'clock, all right? But here's the other problem, especially the suspects don't realize. The moment you open that app, the moment you get connected to a signal, to Wi-Fi, or whatever, however his phone is set up, guess what? It's time stamping, all right? It's connecting itself within the geofencing of that area, wherever the closest tower is. It's going to document that. Whoever unlocked his phone, and it's going to check, does he normally use a code or does he use his face? If he used the code, that's different. If he uses his face, you guys, that's not a problem, right? You could just put the face up and then it'll unlock the phone. What's the problem with this? That the suspects, if this is investigated properly, it's going to open up a timeline. When were those messages deleted? How many times was his phone activated? When was the phone activated? Why do I say that? What if they decide to delete his messages while they're already back on land at the boy's house where the phone was located? All right. Because now, guess what? He's missing. You never reported him missing, yet his phone is turned on, it's activated, it's unlocked during a time frame where he's supposed to be missing. In an area where you are at, in their home, in your home, in the home of the suspect, his phone is unlocked, his apps are activated, messages are deleted, okay? All this, the phone is recording. You guys, that right there, that strong circumstantial evidence. Why are you going through his phone and he's not present? You said you last saw him at, okay, 3 o'clock. But yet you're going through his phone at 10, 11 o'clock at night. Make it make sense. You guys, and this is how suspects get themselves caught up in a trick bag because they don't understand technology. They don't know how technology works and how invasive technology is, okay? And just something as simple as opening up the app automatically starts tracking your location. And so when you think you're doing something and removing things, you're actually creating a footprint of evidence that could obviously lead against you. All right. The investigators, you know, I know they said they need a private investigator. You know, if I'm not mistaken, that island is under federal jurisdiction. You know, I would try to get the feds to investigate this and take it away from the state as much as possible, to be honest, and let them do a thorough investigation. You're going to need your second investigator or a private investigator. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but that cell phone dump and the search warrant on those boys' phones, those things are absolutely necessary in order to find out what they were doing in that time frame after 3 o'clock, because that's where everything all comes down to. Okay, what was going on? When was his phone activated? What apps were activated? If those things were truly deleted, you can still get those things back through the metadata. So there is no real problem here, but the way the phone was accessed can actually point to a bigger issue. What's the other thing? The boat. Okay, the boat. The boat has evidence on it. Okay, we want to actually sweep and clean that boat. And if they were cleaning it, I mean, people could say that's not uncommon. People said the boat had some issues and they had to be towed back to the mainland. And if that's the case, who towed the boat? All right. If the boat was towed, I'm assuming the boat toter would have known if there was a black guy on the boat. Okay. Was there a black guy on the boat when you towed it? Okay. So these are questions, and I don't really know how they're investigating this, you guys, but this is not as complicated as some people might wanted to believe, right? If it's investigated investigated properly, this is not a complicated case. All right.
Suspicious,
Michael,
you know.
We having an independent autopsy done at the behest of his family. Colin Kaepernick helped pay for the independent autopsy. We flew his body up from Mississippi to
Shout
D.C.
out to
because they
Kaepernick.
wanted an autopsy done by a person with no interaction with the Mississippi law enforcement, because there's an issue of trust here that is really important. And the fact that they keep trying to say, well, suggesting it was a drowning, but nobody out there reported him drowning, it's not adding up, Michael Strahan. It is not adding up.
And honestly, we are doing this because at the end of the day, I would hope any parent would fight for their kids to find out if anything happened, what did happen. So we just want honesty and transparency. We want a thorough investigation. We want that same respect that would be given to anybody else, and that's it. We just want answers.
Well, we really appreciate all of you being here.
The father's over it, man. The father wants blood, and I don't blame him. You know, the look on his face, you guys, he's ready to crash out. The dad, I would be too. You know, nothing makes sense. He was on a press conference, and he was talking about the interaction when he, I guess he went to the house, the boy's house, and he described that interaction and how that was. The boy made a statement, you guys, and I'm gonna see if I have to pull that interview up. I should have had it up already. And this is it. I want to play this because this is so
Introducing clip B.
This is so important. What's interesting about this press conference, the father stated he was talking to one of the friends, and the friend said, hey, something to the effect of, hey, we care about him too, you know, or something like that. And to me, what I heard was, I heard a guilty conscience, right? You know, he's like a brother, you know, and I think the dad said, bring me his keys. And he said something to me. I feel like that's the weak link, right? That's the weak link. That's the person as an investigator I want to bring into the office and say, hey, I know he was like a brother to you. You know, I know he was like a brother to you, and I know you didn't want this to happen, right? This wasn't your idea. And listen, it's not too late to tell the truth. It's not too late to get from underneath this, right? We can work this out. You know, you're not in any trouble. It may seem like sometimes we do things. You know, I had a guy I was interviewing, you guys, and this is exactly how I did it, because you could feel it. You could feel a person who is under a lot of weight, under a lot of pressure of holding a secret of a crime that they were a part of, but they didn't necessarily commit, right? They were around it, but they weren't participating in it. And that's your weak link. That's the person who just breaks this whole thing wide open. All right. I would focus on that person, and I would just let them know, hey, listen, I can help you. All right. We can make this work, but I need to know the truth, because none of this stuff is making sense. But if I don't get the truth from you, and I don't get it now, we're not going to revisit this conversation. And next time we have this conversation again, I'm going to be talking about how many years in prison you'll be. All right. How many years in prison you will be carrying out because of your involvement, right? So you got to know when and how to break and how to shake people. The person who has all the answers, the person who's the most confident, is going to be the ringleader. That's the one whose parents are backing him. And this is something I want to ask you guys too. And while we're here, while we got people on the chat, you guys please like and share this video. Like the video, helps with the algorithm. Let me ask everybody a quick question. I know I had a poll going, but I'm actually going to change the poll real quick. And this is important. I have to ask this. But let's look at what we have so far. Was Nolan Wells murdered by his friends? 80% of you guys said yes, he was. 20% said no. Okay, I like that. I like that. Here's what we will look at, though. Let me change this. Let me end the poll here. I'm going to add a new poll real quick. This one's going to be different. Okay, 56 people voted. You guys, I need full voting participation on this next question. And this is important. I'm gonna tell you why. Start the poll. All right. If your son, let me see it. Child one, would you turn them in? Me and my brother had a conversation about this yesterday. Let me turn them in. Let me see. All right, I need full participation in this poll right here, you guys. And then I want to bring people up. After this next clip, we review. I'm gonna give you my thoughts. I'm gonna bring people up. I want to know your thoughts. I want to hear what you have to say. I bring you up. My rules as it relates to bringing up and especially having debates and things like that. I want to hear your thoughts. Be respectful, cool. You know, we have a good time on here, but you got to cam up. All right, you got to cam up. It's always been my policy here on this channel. But this poll that I just released. I want full participation on this, you guys. Please, 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 because I really want to get your thoughts on this. If your child committed murder and they came to you, right? You're one of these three boys, or whatever. You have one of the son, daughter, and the child comes to you and they say, hey, mom, dad, this is what happened. And, you know, it just happened so fast. I didn't mean for it to happen, whatever, but I'm scared. I'm afraid. Would you turn your child in, or would you protect them and prevent them or try to keep them from any type of criminal accountability, right? Would you protect your child and prevent them from being held accountable by the law? This is a good question to ask because this opens a door to a bigger issue, right? This case right now reminds me of this TV show that's out called Your Honor. If you guys have not seen that, it's a phenomenal show. Actually, I finished season 1, but I haven't started season 2 yet. But if you haven't seen Your Honor, you guys, that show, that's when this whole thing unfolded. This case right here, this reminded me of that show. All right. Where you have a parent who's a judge and their child did something stupid. Okay. And the child goes to the parent and say, hey, dad, look, this is what happened. I'm so sorry to me. And the father's fear of losing his child supersedes his moral obligation to turn his child in. Okay. I don't want to see my child suffer, though my child took another child's life. That my child is more important than the victim. Okay. And this happens in so many cases where parents will defend their child, even when they're wrong, you guys. And listen, what's funny is I grew up, my mother, my father, they told me, you come out here and act stupid, we're driving you to the jail. Okay. I want to know with you guys, what would you do as a parent? You know, or would your parents defend you, or would they turn you in? And this goes back to, you know, the judge, she made comments and things like that. I'm really curious to know, you know, what you guys think about that. And if you would turn your child in. If I had a child, my plan is when I have kids, I'm going to raise them right. And if they make a mistake like that, or if it was intentional and they come to me, I'm going to say, hey, listen, I'm going to talk to them. We have a whole little talk about it. I'm going to always support them and be by their side, right? Depending on the type of crime, but to let them know that, listen, I love you, but you know, you have to, you got to make this right. And yeah, we're going to make sure you get an attorney and then make sure you don't get railroaded, but I am going to turn you in. You know, I'll walk down there with you together, you know, yeah, I'm not going to try to cover up for your mistake. Absolutely not. So, and again, a shout out to, yeah, this is so true. They have to be accountable, but I taught you better, you know? So this is a real thing. I've had cases where parents are protecting their child. I've had cases where parents are turning their child in. I've had parents call me and say, hey, I found this gun in my son's room. I don't know why he has it. I didn't give it to him. Hey, I found these drugs in my son's room. I lifted up his mattress. I found, you know, this, and this. Can you come get it? And guess what, you guys? I show up, running the gun. The gun is stolen. Looking at the drugs, find out the son's a drug dealer. Yes, you have parents, you guys, that do turn their kids in. I've had parents that were helping their kids fence, helping their kids sex traffic, you know, other kids. You guys, I've seen it all. Okay, I've seen it all. And you just don't know what parents you're going to be dealing with out here. They could be just as dangerous as their children. All right. But yeah, that poll is crazy. Before we get into that video, well, now let's go ahead and dive into that video. I want to see. I think the father is explaining his encounter with the friend at the friend's house and what that looked like. All right. Let me see. Cool, we doing good. Let me. Is this it? Yeah, this is it.
The tension. He could feel that something wasn't right. So he was just a special kid. He was a special kid. But again, just heart was so big. And we're gonna miss him dearly. But we are grateful, especially to our friend Tashima, who actually was one of the people who helped us that night. She went and picked up his cell phone from where it was, and then provided that to us, because we of course contacted authorities to figure out who to do the report with, whether it was the county or the city, which then turned into DMR, who I contacted immediately from there.
Is the sound low on this video, you guys? Is the sound low? If it's low, this one is kind of low. Full presser on family Nolan Wells. We can't hear. Yes, it sounds low. Okay. It might be that particular video. Let me see. Give me 1 second, y'all. Let me see if I can find it. Al Sharpton. Al crooked ass Sharpton, boy. I don't even know how he even got involved in this, but you know, let's play this one.
Looking for an easier way to get that LLC.
Oh Lord, sorry about that. That's loud.
Old son, Al Sharpton, at the mic right now.
Who have already, in my judgment, seemed to have mishandled where it was going. Because to just immediately, before a week time, saying there was nothing done wrong, when we hear that this young man was engaged in some kind of argument that was on tape, that his cell phone and keys ended up with one of the people that were there on the island and got away. He was one black with 3 young white men who happened to end up with his phone, happened to end up with his keys. Then there's just too many questions that they should not be closing the investigation. Now, I'm from Brooklyn, so I'm a little different than some of y'all. I was built different. My nose is out here, my eyes are here, my brain is here, which means some things I could smell before I could see and before I can figure out. This does not smell right. So some people are saying, Reverend, are y'all bringing in race? Well, we're not bringing in race, but we're not discounting race either, because we don't know what it is. So to tell us don't rush to judgment saying it was racist is fine. But then I'm telling you, don't rush to judgment saying it was not racism, because we do not know. We do know what these parents are being told, and what the parents have now shared with us does not make sense. How do you end up a young, promising football player, not in trouble, mother and daddy at home, everything we tell him to do and be? They go on the 4th of July, on the anniversary of this country, going to an island, we're outing with his friends, and the friends come back, and he's left there with some story about, he said, leave them behind. But then by some magic, one of the friends has his keys and his phone. Mind you, His mother tracked down the phone. They didn't voluntarily tell her they had his phone. They didn't voluntarily say they had the keys. So if they had not been tracked down, we don't know if they ever would have known where it was. Some of this doesn't make sense. So we are absolute.
And let me stop there. Sharpton is making valid points, you guys. Here's where this case gets tricky, okay? If I'm working a murder investigation and someone has the victim's property, you guys, that's primary suspect. You're the suspect. You are my primary. You have all his shit. You guys, you have his car, keys, and phone. You are a primary suspect in this investigation. And I hear your story, but you're the suspect. Just like when two couples get into it and someone passes away, right? We went on a cruise. I don't know how she fell overboard. Sir, you're the suspect. Where were you at the night of, all right, between the hours of? You guys, that's the game. That's the game. So in this case right here, where you have a situation where they're able to, now you guys know I'm not a race baiter, but I speak nothing but facts over here. We do facts over feelings. Here is the issue as it relates to white people versus black people when it comes to crime, criminal justice, is that in most cases, you have a privilege of the benefit of the doubt based off skin color. This is a fact, okay? And though it may not apply to every investigator, it does apply to a lot of them, meaning that it's the same thing when people say believe all women, right? There are women who get the benefit of the doubt as it relates to encounters and interactions with men. Whereas you look at the woman, you're just like, I gotta believe her, right? Why would she lie about that? Well, because she's human, right? She's human, okay? And in this situation, people are like, hey, they're three friends, these three white kids, they look innocent, they look harmless. Why would they make this up? Well, why would a criminal lie? To avoid accountability. See, your words mean nothing. I need to see the evidence. And if you have his property, you're a suspect. I know what it seems like. I get it. Hey, listen, it's no hard feelings. Let me rule you out, you guys. That's always my go-to. Listen, you're not in any trouble. I just got to do this thing. You know, I got to do this thing where I got to just rule you out. All right, let me rule you out. It's a process. There's no hard feelings, you guys, at all. I tell people all the time, hey, this is not personal. How, you don't believe me? You don't trust me? No, it's not about that. I need the evidence to prove to me that what you said is real. But I have somebody who died, right? And I got to rule you out. How do I know it's not foul play? You know, well, he said he was staying behind and stayed with a girl. Okay. All right. Let me get your phone. I can't have it? What? Talk to your attorney. Damn. Okay. Cool. Game on. Right? Game on. And there's nothing wrong with talking, because here's the thing, you guys, you can call your attorney and cooperate 100%. Right? The attorney, to make sure you don't get yourself in any trouble, you're supposed to call your attorney. Okay? Call your attorney and cooperate 100%. Hey, Tom, I need your, can I swab you inside, please? No, I need a search warrant. Damn, hey, can I get your phone, Tom? I know, listen, I got to rule you out, Tom. Can I get your cell phone? Can I swab your mouth, take some DNA? You know, I just need to rule you out. And Tom says, no. Tom says, get a search warrant. You're supposed to be his friend. You didn't do nothing wrong. Well, guess what? You're looking a little suspect now. You're starting to look a little suspicious. And you guys, and this is how things evolve. But if you sit there and you take their word for it, because you just think that, why would he do that? Obviously he drowned. Nah, it doesn't work like that. The moment you have his property and he is a victim of a crime, he's a victim of murder, you guys, you are a suspect. And now we go into, you didn't make any efforts to contact the mother, return his property. It's after midnight. It's right. And that's the part of the video I want you guys to see, when the father is talking about how he encountered one of the friends in the house, and the friend did not want to hand over his property to his father. Nah. See, it's behaviors like that. Those manifested behaviors of guilt, you guys, that's what we look for as investigators. When I'm investigating, I'm looking for those subtle things that give me clues to let me know that this person is uncomfortable. This person is acting different. Acting different. So, and when the father responded, when the father arrived to get his son's property, where were the boy's parents at? You know, where were the boy's parents? That would be my next question. All right, so let's dive into this. Sharpton is making some great points, you guys. And again, as an investigator, this is what I'm looking for. All right, he is my primary suspect. And like I said before, whoever's house they went to first is the ringleader. He's the person who's calling all the shots. Everybody's not coming up with the same idea, right? You either killed him or you watched him die. You killed him or you watched him die. Meaning that it was either an accident and you guys want to cover this thing up. Someone said in the comments, like, what was this about? Was this jealousy? You know, you guys, it could be over anything. All right. It could be over a long-term jealousy. A lot of times you see stuff like it's over a woman, some over a girl. This could be something. This could be over his future prospects when he's out showing these guys in football. He's getting scholarships. He's getting offers. There's this deep-seated hatred, jealousy. He's getting all the girls. I saw some of the girls he was pulled a couple of snow bunnies, and they was pretty cute. Okay. You just never know. You never know what the motive is. And the fact that there was a disagreement, an argument, you guys, that is evidence. That's evidence. And that right there, someone has to be ruled out. I want to know who he was arguing with. Who had his phone? The argument was about his phone. Give me my phone back. That's a problem, you guys. That's a problem. Who was he talking to? Why did you have his phone? Why didn't you give it back? I need you guys to answer these questions for me and make it make sense. Make it make sense. So they're playing games with his phone. All right. It's on video. There was an argument. Right then and there, the whole story. This goes from we're all having fun, drinking, having fun, I'm swimming and I drown, to now I need to rule out potential foul play. I got to rule it out. Why? Because there was an argument. And again, I just want you guys to imagine when you're thinking about investigating, imagine this. Imagine, imagine, I always like to use domestics as a perfect example, because the same way you're going to investigate these allegations, it's no different. It's conflict. How do investigators investigate conflict? If you have a couple, okay, and here's a scenario. You have a couple, they're out at a bar, okay, and the male ends up dying, right? The male's murdered, okay? The male's murdered. And the wife is saying, I didn't do it, okay? I didn't do it. I was at home brushing my teeth. I got the phone call. He said he was going to come home. He never showed up. I didn't call to check on him because he said he was going to be home. All right. He was out drinking with his friends. Cool. We're all like, okay. We'll look into it. But you're saying that it could be something else. But then evidence comes up that an hour before he went missing, there's video of both of you, the couple, outside the bar fighting. Okay. There was an argument. There was a disagreement. You guys, that changes the entire dynamic of the situation. And essentially, this is what Sharpton is saying, is that, hey, once we learn that there was some type of argument amongst the friends, and then there was an argument about you having someone taking his phone and not giving it back, you guys, that's a crime within itself. Okay. It's called theft. It's called theft. Right? Then how'd you get him on the boat? How'd you get him on the boat? You know, and so when you look at it that way, how as new evidence is introduced, the investigation and the intentions behind the investigation change. Okay. It's no different if someone's arguing, they're arguing, and all of a sudden the person, oh, well, you know, they committed suicide. But you found out there was an argument between two people before. And it's like, that suicide starts to look a little suspicious. All right. And that's this whole case looks a little suspicious now that we've introduced some other variables. Okay. And it needs to be investigated as such. So let's
The
continue
National
going.
Action Network and other groups going to rally behind this family. I have told them that whatever we can and need to do, we will do it because this smacks of some of the worst fears that we've had historically, not only in Mississippi, but in this country. And we are there until the end with them. I've been asked by the family to be in Mississippi for the funeral to officiate, which I'm going to do. We just got off the phone with Tyler Perry, the actor who says he wants to help cover whatever expenses for the.
Let me pause and say this real quick. This CDM 27, he spent the night at the house the day before. What does that mean to me as an investigator? Search warrant. All right. What does that mean? What am I telling the judge? I'm telling the judge this, you guys, to get the search warrant signed because I need to be able to connect the house to the crime. Okay. Here's what I'm saying. Okay. This is really great. I'm glad you made this statement because I did hear from the father that he was there. That's why his vehicle was still at the house. What's my theory as an investigator, you guys? My theory as an investigator is this, that here's a potential thing. He did get back on the boat because we have a witness saying that he did. Okay. The suspects that I'm investigating are saying he never got on the boat. Well, of course, if you killed him, of course, that's what you want people to believe. Right. But we have a witness who's saying he got back on the boat. And I'm asking her, hey, Katie, I think her name is Katie. Katie, did you see him physically get on the boat? You guys, if she says yes, you guys, I'm getting a search warrant. I'm getting a search warrant for the boat. I'm getting a search warrant for the friend's cell phone. And I'm getting a search warrant for whoever's house he was staying at. Why? He could have been killed in the house, you guys. He could have been killed in the house. And if he was killed in the house and his body was put back on the boat and it was dropped off at on the north side of the island, that's a problem, right? That's a problem. And for those who haven't seen it, I think I might have, let me see if I can pull this up real quick. That's a problem. Let me see if this comes up. All right. Share this tab. All right, that didn't help at all. Okay. That's a problem. Okay, that's a huge problem. I'm getting a search warrant, and that's all I need. I need Katie's statement. Katie is going to sign an affidavit saying, "Hey, this is what I saw. This is what I remember. There was an argument. There was that, and we talked for a little bit. He got on the boat. Well, I got 3 people saying he did not. Woo. You guys, I'm getting a search warrant. What am I telling the judge? Well, they're saying one thing. I got a key witness saying something else. And guess what? We have guess what else we have? We have that 360, you guys. We got that 360. And what is that 360 telling us on the app? The 360 on the app is telling us that the 360 on the app is telling us some very, very important information. The Snapchat data in my affidavit for my search warrant, okay? I'm telling the judge that I have this GPS location of the victim going from the island to this home. It's going to this home. You guys, that's the nexus right there, right? I have a witness saying he got on the boat, and I have his phone tracking to the house, okay? I'm telling the judge that I need to search that home for any information, any evidence that would support or rule out murder. Something happened in that home. You guys, I'm inside that house. His keys are there. His cell phone was there. And I need to get a search warrant on those cell phones. I need to see where their phones were, where they pinged, where they went. I need to see their search history on their browser. What were they searching for? Right? How to get away with murder, how to clean blood up. And guess what else I'm doing as an investigator, you guys? I'm getting a search warrant for their DNA. I'm getting a search warrant for their DNA. You guys, this case is easy. I got a couple homeboys who could probably solve this case in 2 weeks. This is an easy case, you guys. I'm swabbing all of these guys' cheeks, all in their mouth. All right. I'm swabbing inside their mouth. I'm getting their DNA. What else am I doing? You guys, I'm getting under them fingernails. I'm taking pictures of their entire, I need to see your body. I need to see your body. I need to see any defensive wounds. What am I looking for? I'm looking for foul play. Hey man, where you get this? We get a little scratch at right there on the side of your neck. We get that. Oh, my girl Susan. Okay. Guess what? You done brought Susan in the mix. Hey, Susan, when's the last time y'all got together? In my little notepad. Okay. Susan, you ain't got no nails. How you scratching people? Right? You guys, DNA is something else. And it's not that easy to get rid of. Okay. It's not easy at all. And again, the ringleaders, whoever's home they went back to after this altercation or whatever happened after they brought the boat back, that's the leader's house. That's the house where they felt most confident and comfortable in going and plotting this thing out. Okay. So I'm talking to the judge, showing the judge my GPS, the GPS of his phone, where his phone went. Okay. And I am connecting that along with the witness testimony that she saw him get on the boat, meaning that he's with his phone. And at some point in time, he parted from his phone and he was found on the shore of the island. Okay. Washed up. That's a problem. You guys, this case, and depending on how well they cooperate, did I have to get a warrant to get this information or did you volunteer this information? And when I open up this information, was stuff missing? Okay. You got text messages missing for 3 days. You've erased everything since June 30th to July 4th is missing. And then I want to look at text messages and phone calls. Who did you guys call? You guys, the call log is so important. Who's your lifeline? Okay. If the son, okay, who has the mom that's a judge, if that was that first call around 3:30, 4 or 5 o'clock, what was that conversation like? Then I want to know what the mom did after that. Where did she go? What did she cancel? Right? I want to look at the urgency, the sense of urgency in that moment. Okay. Did the parents start galvanizing quickly around this time frame? What does that mean to me? It's going to show me when an incident occurred. Something happened around this time frame. Why? Because all the parents are congregating at this particular moment at this time, right? The mom who's a judge made phone calls to other people. I'm pulling the judge in. Who'd you call after your son called you at this particular time? Your son called you at 5 o'clock. Who'd you call? You called 8 other people. You called 2 attorneys. Why'd you call 2 attorneys? When did you first contact your attorney? You guys, these are the things you look for as an investigator. And that's going to tell me when things started really getting serious, when the phone calls started getting made. You can't hide that stuff, you guys. See, the cell phone data, the cell phone tells a story. What you search for tells a story. Who you called tells a story. When you got your attorney tells a story. Did you get an attorney before this hit the news? When did you get that attorney? People said they deleted their social media and they wiped it clean. Now, listen, people know, right? They've seen this story play out. Okay, when you're accused of a crime, it looks like it's going to get crazy. People, these fools online will go and dox you. They'll get all your stuff. They'll expose stuff. I mean, you know what I mean? But they'll get nosy, right? People take it too far. I get it. You know, I get it. But for me as an investigator, you guys, all this information tells a story. It tells a beautiful story. And as an investigator, I'm looking at when these things actually transpired. And what am I doing, you guys? If this is my case, what I'm looking at, I want to know, I got their cell phones. I want to know when they made their first phone call. I want to know who they called, what time they called. After that, if I know they called moms, parents, you know, these kids don't, you know, and if I'm looking at their history, right? How often do they call their parents? Okay. So if all of a sudden they're all making phone calls to adults, they're making phone calls to attorneys, you know, and then I'm looking into the mom's making all these calls too. You guys, I'm starting to see something. I'm looking at a pattern. I'm trying to figure out where all this fits in on the timeline. All right. And what they do after that, of course, I'm tracking these GPS movements of the friends. And I want to know where they all went. Did they all stay together? Did they go separate places? I'm pulling them in for the interview and I'm saying, hey, I see at 5:30, whatever, you went to Home Depot. What'd you buy? I'm pulling cameras from Home Depot. I want to see what you picked up. Okay. Oh shit, you picked up this? What are you using that for? Hey, at 5:30, you did a search on your browser of how long does a body float in the water after it's been sunk. You know what I mean? Like, you're looking at all these things, you guys. And that tells a better picture. And so this is from a standpoint of how do you actually investigate? Like, as an investigator, what I'm looking at the phone. I'm allowing it to tell me stories, and I'm putting together all my theories and questions before I pull them in for an interview. But guess what? They already got attorneys. And so the question is, if you have an attorney and you're innocent, how much do you cooperate? Well, if you have nothing to hide, you share the information that you have, you volunteer what actually took place, and you know, you kind of go from there. You know, you don't have to incriminate yourself, quote unquote, but the facts are the facts and the truth of the truth, right? But anyways, let me keep going. Let me see. Let's dive into this real quick. I don't know why this is. Let me minimize myself. People are talking about Judge Ashley. I don't know if this is. Can you guys see this? Okay, clear. People are talking about Judge Ashley Cole. Okay, there we go. And a lot of things that she said. I want to kind of point out a couple of things that stood out to me in her statement. First of all, she says, our family, along with the community, grieves the loss of Nolan Wells. Our thoughts and prayers are with Nolan's family. Our son, Warren, loved Nolan dearly. Unfortunately, I feel that it's appropriate for our family to dispel some rumors, the facts based upon the social media attention that's been diverted away from the Wells family and their loss. Yes, I deactivated my Facebook. Given the very heightened emotional state of social media right now, I fear for the safety of my child and my children. My husband and I have 6 children. Damn, okay. And we covet their privacy. Now, I agree with her 100%, you guys. She is 100% correct with that. We do not believe it is appropriate for our minor children's photographs to be circulated throughout the internet, presenting potential threats to their safety. 100% agree with her. Hands down, I agree with her. She says, my husband and I were not at Horn Island at any point on the 4th of July. This I find interesting that she puts that out there. Okay. I find this very interesting that she felt the need to make this statement. No one in our family is trying in any way to impede the investigation by law enforcement or to otherwise hamper the family in law enforcement's quest for answers. Warren was interviewed by the Jackson County Sheriff's Department and cooperated fully. He saw Nolan last at 3 p.m. on July 4th. They left around 4:30 p.m. when the boat was taking on water and they had an issue with the bilge pump. Nolan made a decision to stay on the island and return inland later with another group of friends. People are saying that behavior is not uncommon. I know online there's been a lot of discussion like, don't leave your friends. What friend leaves a friend? You guys act like y'all weren't kids once, right? And so again, we don't know what we don't know. Okay. Again, let the facts speak for themselves. All right. This statement within itself, say that's their statement that, hey, what the friends are saying is that he decided to stay. That's completely fine. We have someone that's saying something different. That's completely fine. Our job as an investigator is to find out who's telling the truth and who's lying. Okay. Once you make a statement, you're locked. You are locked, you guys. They made a statement. That's it. Ain't no going back. You go back, you're out of here. Especially messing with me. You go back on your statement. All of a sudden, you know what? I think it was about 5. Or you know what? He did get back on the boat, but then we went around the other side and dropped him off, but we didn't take him home. Oh, you're done. You're done. Okay. So they're locked in, you guys. So this is a good thing. Their statement is a good thing. Now we let the evidence speak. The evidence has to speak. Okay. So what else? She said, yes, I'm a judge. I also value transparency. I apologize if anyone was offended that I deleted my social media. There was no nefarious motivations in my deleting my social media. Social media has a lot of positive, but a whole lot of negative. She's 100% correct. 100% correct, you guys. I do not fault her for this. A lot of people are faulting her for this. I don't see why. I don't see why at all. Just know that your boy is locked in. Okay, he is locked in his story, and there's no escaping the story that they came up with, or that they're saying is true. All right, here is Ashley's second. Okay, this is her second statement. She had a follow-up statement to that, and this one is also just as interesting. All right. Judge Ashley Cole's second statement is regarding the death of Nolan Wells. She says, we have decided that we will not be speaking to the press at this time. Absolutely. Okay. Don't speak to the press, ma'am. This is not what you want to do. What my suggestion to the family, just cooperate with the investigation. Whatever they ask for, even the family, if the family's asking for you to just cooperate. Give up your sons, give up their phones. And if they did it, turn them in. Okay. Everybody just wants transparency. They just want truth. She said the media is not the appropriate forum to further elaborate on the facts of July 4th. We realize that the truth will not stop the cause for the death of our small children. I think one of the big issues, unfortunately, guys, the social media can be so unforgiving. All right. And what she's saying is like, of course, they've been receiving a lot of threats. All right. They've been receiving a lot of threats. This is common in these type of cases. It's unfortunate. There's a lot of immature, sick people out here. And we already know this to be true. She says, we have not had the opportunity to speak to the Wells Wansley family or their attorney. However, we're willing to directly communicate with Attorney Ben Crump and the Wells Wansley family. See, I like this. What is she saying? She says, we are open to communicate with them and whatever is necessary. I like that, you guys. Some people had an issue with that. I don't understand why, but you know, of course, people have already made this, of course, about race. You guys, we don't know. There's not enough evidence to say this is racially motivated, and there's not any evidence to suggest that it's not. Okay, we just don't know. All right, that's the facts. She said we will provide them with all the information known to us so their family can rest and properly mourn. We also want to know what happened to Nolan. We will do everything within our power to assist Nolan's family in their quest for answers. You guys, I don't see a problem with this at all. Does anybody see an issue with her statement? Anybody? So where are we? Where are we right now in this investigation? The autopsy. Okay. The body has been taken. The body there's been an autopsy done already by the state. And now Ben Crump and his team have shipped the body over to DC to get an independent autopsy. And we're waiting on that. You know, we are waiting on that, and that is going to give us the information that we need to determine what actually took place, or at least have a better idea of whether or not there was any foul play involved. What is the next piece? Let's get back to this clip.
Funeral. We have with us Spike Lee is in the house. Many of our people.
This is the number one resume template to apply.
While we're going through this this commercial, let me also, I don't want to
always answer the bell. As we want to lead by example. We want them to be.
Definitely, that is just a matter of fact. There have been many cases, many instances that shows it's unfortunately a pattern that he did not like. He did not like that there was so much division, and I think that's why God gave him us. He was
No more.
I want to hear what the father says. The father describes. The father does a great job describing his encounter with one of the friends. I think it's important for us to talk about. One more thing, though. I want to go into the poll real quick that I put up, and then after we watch this clip, you guys, I'm going to drop a link for you guys to come up, give your thoughts, get your points in. If you have any questions as far as how this should be properly investigated, what things should come next. You have a question for me from an investigative standpoint, I will be answering those questions here on the channel. And if you have theories, I'm open to, would love to hear your thoughts, your theories as well. And what else? Yeah, please take the time, you guys, to like the stream. We have 300 plus people in here, which is really amazing. I really appreciate the support tonight, you guys. I will be taking questions in the chat, and I'll put your questions up on the screen so we can answer them. I'm also going to drop a link for you guys to come up. Make sure that you cam up. Make sure you're kind of sitting still and leveled, so we can have a great conversation. If you have pushback, if you don't think this is murder, if you think it's an accident, I want to hear it, you guys. Over here on this channel, we do facts over feelings, you guys. We don't take nothing personal, but we do focus on just quality discussions. All right. What I want to know about the poll real quick. Let's go ahead and, if you haven't had a chance to do the poll, please check the poll out. I really want to get like at least 90% participation in the poll. I think it's a great question. If this was your child, right? The alleged suspects, one of your child is one of the friends, and they actually committed a crime. They committed murder, and they come home to you, mom and dad, and they say, hey, I did it, but I don't know what to do next, you guys. Are you turning your child in? That's the poll. Are you turning your child in? Be honest. I just want your honesty. You know, my parents said they would turn me in. All right. I grew up always knowing in the back of my mind, if I come out here and act stupid, my parents will be ushering me down to the damn jail, you guys. I can call my dad right now. I'll call my dad right now. You know, my parents are Jamaican. They'll tell you in a heartbeat, nah, I'm turning you in. Okay. And call my dad right now. That'd be crazy. I should call him. I should call my dad. My dad's crazy though. So would you turn your child in? You know, I would turn mine in, you guys. And I would hope and pray, you know, when I have children, I'm talking to them, educating them about life, and let them know about accountability and the importance of, you know, I'm turning you in not because I don't love you anymore. Again, this goes back to that show, Your Honor. If you guys have not seen that, it's a great show where the father is a judge, the son is an idiot, and he takes somebody's life, and the father is going out his way to defend him. The question is, if these parents, let's just say if they know that their child has committed this crime and they're covering, you guys, every ass is going to jail. Everybody's going to prison. All right. And is this unheard of? No, it's not unheard of. There's plenty of cases where parents have gotten involved in defending their child. All right. We've seen this happen. If you guys aren't familiar with the kid who was killed in the gymnasium of a high school and was found stuffed, rolled up in a rolled up mat. And when I tell you the parents got behind their kids hard to defend them, and got away with it. Got away with murder. So it's out here. People say friends don't leave friends, or friends don't do this, or it's a white versus black thing. Yet you got people going over to Mexico and getting killed, and their friends are, defending. I mean, you guys, this is just, to me, I always look at this is just evil. Okay. It's evil. And sometimes it's just, you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. All right, let's take a look at this poll real quick. I wonder if I can pull it up. Okay. So you guys said, can I pull the poll up here? I don't know if I can pull the poll up here. I don't know if I can pull up. So this has a new feature on here where I can actually show the chat come up on the screen. That is so dope. They didn't have that when I used to stream in the, when I first started streaming. Let me see. Can I expand that? That's cool. There's these new little features in here. Yeah, the parents were FBI agents in that case. I'm gonna have to find that case, but I forgot the name of the individual. But you guys, he was killed inside the gym. It was a black kid. It was killed by two suspects who were white teenagers, two brothers, and they stuffed him in a mat. Let me pull it up real quick, because you guys ain't gonna believe me. If you're not familiar with that case, you're about to get familiar real quick, though. Let me show you something. Let me see if you guys are familiar with this case right here. Kendrick Johnson. Everybody familiar with that story, Kendrick Johnson? That's his feet. This is a real photo of his feet. He was killed inside a gym, stuffed in a mat. His father or his parents were FBI agents. They ended up losing. I think the father lost his job. It was such a long time ago since I remember looking at this case, because they were tampering with evidence, and he got away with it. He got away with it. Anywho, let's from the poll. Let's see what the poll says regarding this. 85% of you guys. Is there a way to pin this? 85% of you said that you would. 138 of you guys voted. Okay. 85% of you said that you would turn your child in. Okay, that's what's up. 15% said they would not turn their child in. Listen, I appreciate your honesty, you guys. To me, I think that's just keeping it real. Don't say yes, I'm turning my child in. So this is very interesting, you guys. Thank you so much for participating in that poll. If you haven't, if you want to jump, throw your answers in real quick. Would you turn your child in? All right. Feel free to answer that poll. I'm going to tell me at 1:30, about an hour and 31 minutes. Let's finish this little clip, and I'm gonna bring you guys up and get your thoughts. All right, I'm gonna get your thoughts on it. You guys can keep voting on or keep answering the question on the poll. Let's see. Let's pull this up. There's all these new features, you guys. Bear with me. All right, here we go.
Okay, so the situation with the key. When we got to the house, a few of his friends, they were already there, and they were at the door in the house, asking questions. So when I walked up, they were getting, things were getting kind of tense. So I turned to them and told them, I need you guys to calm down. I don't do this to me right now. I need them to kind of trust me so they can give me something.
So here's the thing, and this is something I want to point it out. Things were getting kind of tense. I need you to elaborate, Pops. I need you to elaborate. What does that mean? See, all this right here is evidence. What were they? And as an investigator, I'm asking the father, what do you mean they're getting kind of, what were they doing? How were they acting? How did they respond when they asked you questions? Because I'm going to start asking these same teenagers the same questions that he asked. He felt that you guys were acting like, what was the energy like? Why were you guys being so aggressive, or why were you being so defensive? Like, what is that about? He's saying things were getting intense, you guys. That's crazy. That's crazy. And this is when the father went to the house to get the keys, all right, to his son's car, all right? And I just for me, I'm thinking for me, if I was a father, you guys, whoo, I don't even know. I don't even know. I consider myself to be the most tempered and patient person. And he looks like Captain Don't Give a, okay? He looked like first of all, he looked like an action figure, okay? The brother looked like he can hurt somebody. And you could tell that it took everything in his soul, okay, not to go rampage Jackson inside that house. All right. You could tell that every fiber of his being wanted to hurt them boys. Things were getting intense is crazy. Whew.
I was able to calm him down. So the guy he's in one of the pictures, but he came out of the room, half asleep or whatever, I think Jax or whatever. And I said, look, I'm Nolan's father. I'm here to get his keys so I can get his car. I said, he's like, his car was in the yard. His car's parked in the yard. So he was like, I don't know, man. Nolan's like my brother. I said, well, if Nolan was like your brother, would you please go in your room and see if you can find my son's keys so I can take his car home? He walks off, 2 or 3 minutes, come back.
Nolan's like a brother, you guys. To me, that's a guilt response. I don't know, man. Nolan's like a brother. The hell I got to do with what I'm asking you to do? Go get my son's keys. If I come in this house and I start bouncing y'all off the concrete, okay? Go and get. Nolan's like a brother. What does that mean, you guys? What does that mean to you? Your son is missing, and the people that has his stuff is telling you some stuff you're not trying to hear. I'm his father. What do you mean? Whew. You guys, all I could see, the rage, me grabbing his head and then putting it through the drywall. All right. This is crazy. This is crazy. Shouts out to the father, man. This is tough, man.
I can't find the keys. I said, okay. So at that point, I get the boys and I get to move them out the house because I didn't want them to go into the house and start tearing up these people's houses because then that would be a whole nother situation. So walk outside by the car. One of the guys that was in the house with us, he was on the phone with a girl, and the girl told him that Nolan's keys were on top of this Jax guy's Xbox in the house because apparently she was there with him earlier. So he goes back up to the door by himself, and 5 minutes later, the keys come out. So now I feel like you done lied to me. So now I'm really like in distress with you. But as far as their night goes, if I knew anyone who had a boat, I would have went out that night looking for my son. We tried, but I don't have friends with boats. But if I knew someone with one, I would have went out that night. And this so happened that his coach saw all the stuff on Facebook that next morning and called and contacted me at like 5 a.m, asked me, did we want to go out? And I told him yes. So within an hour, he was at the dock. We met him and we went out. We docked the boat, got off the boat, walked on the island, walked a pretty nice stretch, came back, got back on the boat, went around the island, looked, came back around, and where we went to, that's where apparently they say that his body floated up. I don't know a lot about water currents over there, but I would think that we would have saw his body. And on the trip there was a family that stayed a night on the island, like actually tented out on the island. So if he was left, he would have saw that family on the island, and there was 2 other boats docked, so he would have had help. So I don't know. I don't know.
Here's I don't know how well they're doing this investigation, but let me just give you like kind of things to think about. Okay, here's a possible theory: is that he was killed and then he was placed at the scene of where he was found. That's a very strong possibility. People move bodies all the time. They're killed somewhere else, and then the body's relocated to make it look like something. But you guys, what people don't realize is that there is a way for them to tell how long the body, or give an approximate time how long the body was sitting in, say, the sand. I don't know how far up on shore it was, but as you know, have you ever sat down at a beach and the water hits you and you slowly start to get covered little by the sand, right? There is a way to tell. There's a way to tell, okay? And one would argue that if the body, if you walked over there, here's what he's saying. He's saying we walked that area where they said the body was found, you know, and then now the next day it's washed up on shore. Well, if it was washed up on shore, how far up you're looking at, kind of like the drag, like a dragging sense, okay? The sand, depending on what it is, you guys, it should kind of really make its way around the body. Does that make sense? Like the sand in the water, depending on how close it is to the shore, it should be actually covering the body little by little over time. If we're thinking about it from a particular time, what timeline are we looking at? What time did the father go out there when they walked the island from the time it was found? And you know, you're looking at kind of how the tide comes in and out, like what that looks like. They shouldn't be picking up the body and there's no sand or water residue or sand up a certain amount of inches above, like around the body. He should be in some ways embedded in the sand to a degree, depending on how close he was to the shore, right? It's just not getting washed up and then it's just laying down out there, just out in the open. That's not how bodies wash up on shore. And the question too is, how did the body look when it washed up? Is he facing downward? Is he sprawled out? Like, does the body look like it naturally washed up on shore? Or does it look like somebody placed the body down? And why do I say that? Someone said was found in the water. Okay. And I'm just saying this out loud, you guys, because I don't know, right? I don't know exactly how. A lot of times we get all these really intricate details during trial, right? When they start releasing the evidence. So, and even the photos. There was a case of two boys who were killed on top of a mountain, or they died on top of a mountain here in Georgia. And it didn't look like it was natural, right? It didn't look natural. They said it was a suicide, but one thing I look at is body placement. If you commit suicide and how you fall, how you land, and things like that, there's a natural way a body lays, and there's a way where a body's placed. And those things are clues, right? They're clues. I just don't know how good of a job these guys did or how good of a job they're trying to do. But if you're an investigator and you've already made up your mind, then you're going to miss all the potential evidence that is around you, right? Because now you're investigating from a place of bias, right? My trainer, as an investigator, the person who trained me and the person I shadowed and watched I had some really, really great officers around me as I started up in the profession, you guys. I learned so much. And one thing I was always taught was that let the evidence tell you. You don't tell the evidence, okay? Let the evidence tell you. When you have a case like a suicide, okay, this is a prime example. Someone saying, oh, this is suicide. Just because I see and you think and you're interpreting is that, I let the evidence confirm that. You don't confirm it. Let the evidence do it, you guys. In this channel, The Crime Classroom, I say this is where, you know, at the end of the day, let the evidence answer all the questions. All right. Let the evidence answer all the questions. Your job is just to find it. That's it. And like they always said from that famous show or the movie, you know, the absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence, meaning that just because you don't see it is not evidence that it doesn't exist. Okay. And this is where the loophole people fall into when they're investigating through their bias, when they're investigating through their opinions, when they're investigating through their racism, when they're investigating through their bigotry, their ego, right? This is where you have problems as an investigator, all right? Every single time that your own ego limits your ability to see everything around you, to see the totality of the circumstances, to look at all the variables, to question everything, The evidence takes you to the next step, and it ultimately confirms the truth. And that's what you need to focus on every single time. And that's where a lot of people make their greatest mistakes. All right. So this is interesting. His encounter about getting the keys back. All right. Someone said there's rumor that he was beat to death and that the police are covering it up. Yeah, I'd be curious, because for them to have to identify him by his dental records is crazy. You guys, crazy. I think I did the calculations. He was only missing for like 41 hours. So there's no reason why he should be that unrecognizable. And if he was beaten that bad, it's giving initiation vibes to me, right? If he's beaten that bad, one of my theories was this might be some type of initiation, and he was sacrificed for it. But that's just one of my many theories. You know, I try not to bring my conspiracy theories to these conversations because I really do like to focus on the facts. But certain things are so, yeah, dental records. What did I say before? Did I say dental records? Yeah, they use his dental records. For them to have to use his dental records is very surprising to me. That lets me know how horrible the body condition was. For him to be gone 41 hours, I don't know. Someone's saying no dental records. What did I say? Did I say something wrong? I may have said something wrong. I may have said something. What did I say? His teeth records. Yeah, I'm not really sure, you guys. I know that they said, how does the sheriff know it's a drowning? Yeah, there's a lot of assumptions in this. A lot of assumptions. All right, let me get back to the video real quick.
I think we stayed there for like an hour and a half. That's when Jackson County and the sheriff department showed up, and they were going to do their rounds. And I had a classmate of mine, him and his two boys, they came out and they searched, and then they got back in touch with me and said the Coast Guard had finally showed up in airplanes. So
what is so critical, what Elmore is saying is they went out on Sunday, and the tide, if it brought his body up, he went missing on July 4th, as they say. His body should have been there on July 5th. Why would it not appear to July 6th? And that's one of those things that's just not adding up. And the fact that if he stayed behind on the island, there were boats there, there were people, somebody had to see something. That's why it's not adding up. And that's what they're saying. It's just not adding up.
yes.
And if he was there 2 days, somebody on the island would be able to verify that. 2 days and nobody's come forward and said, no, he was with us, or no, we saw him. It just does not make sense. Make it make sense.
Mm-hmm. Just one last thing. We want her to talk about the cell phone deleted messages. I'm sorry. I thought my voice was loud enough. One last thing. We want to have Christine talk about the cell phone from her perspective before they tell you who Nolan was, and then we'll take your questions.
So when we made it home, my sister and I actually went through Nolan's cell phone, particularly Snapchat, because that is so popular with the children. And when we opened it up, there was nothing. There were no saved pictures. There were no snaps from that day. And we did open it before the 24-hour expiration. So we found that very concerning, only because anyone who's ever been around Nolan will tell you at social gatherings, he's taking videos, he's taking pictures, he's even come up to me when I'm getting ready to go to bed. Hey, Ma, come on, take a picture of me. You know, like that was Nolan. So that's why we feel that things may have been deleted, was because of the fact that there was nothing in either one of his accounts. But I do want to say this. I would hope that any parent who, God forbid, would be in our situation, I would hope that you would do the same thing. I would hope that you would ask for any help, receive any help to get answers, because at the end of the day, that's all we want. We just want to know. We just want to know what happened and why our baby didn't come home. Like that's our biggest thing. And we are so grateful to everyone, family, friends, classmates, United Cajun Navy, everybody that's assisted us. We appreciate you. There's not enough thank yous that we could say or give to you, but I just, we just want to know. We want an honest, thorough investigation. That's all we're asking for. That's it.
Do you want to say about who Nolan was, and then we talk about it?
Nolan.
You can have a.
All right. Whew, you guys, that's tough. That's tough. 41 hours. Nolan was missing for 41 hours. I'm not concerned about any of the deleted messages. I'm not concerned about any of that, to be honest. Because all that, we can get all that back, you guys. All that can be retrieved. So I'm not really worried about that per se. I'm gonna pin this message. I just dropped a link. Would love to get you guys' thoughts on this topic. I want to hear your theories. If you have questions about the investigation, anything that I said that you might disagree with, you're more than welcome to come up. But please, 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 you got to have your camera up in order to have the conversation. I gotta make sure you're a real person. And yeah, let me hear your thoughts, you guys. Probably gonna get you guys to come up, get your thoughts. If you want to speak your piece on this, if you have a theory or anything of that nature, you're more than welcome to come up. At this time, though, as you guys see the link I just dropped in the chat, you can come on up. I'm gonna end the poll. So right now we have 172 votes in reference to, would you turn your child in if they committed murder? 85% of you guys said yes, you would turn your child in. 15% said no. Very interesting. I think that's really good though. That's good. I think even at the same time, you never know until you're in these situations, right? It's one thing if you know your child is innocent. It's another thing when they're guilty, right? What else? Any questions, you guys? Any questions that you have in reference to investigating? What it would look like to investigate a case like this? The only problem with this, and even asking this question, we don't really know what the investigators have done as of yet. Shout out to you, Miss AB. Thank you so much for this super chat. I really appreciate it. She says deleted messages show the attempted cover-up. Absolutely agree. The question is how they got into his phone. I think if that's the case, unfortunately, if it was text messages, I honestly would feel a little bit stronger about it. But since it's Snapchat, if they're still using Snapchat like that, the mom said he uses Snapchat often, and he should have messages and videos. He could have been recording an altercation that the boys did not want to see. He could have been recording them maybe while he was on the boat, okay, saying things and seeing things that they did not want kept. And if that's the case, you guys, if that's the case, that's a slam dunk, right? All this stuff can be retrieved. All of it can be retrieved. The question, though, is if the investigators already pulled his cell phone information off of Nolan's phone, and they don't do right by that information, you guys, they can find themselves in hot water as well, okay? So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm so anxious to hear the rest of the evidence. Again, if one person is saying he got back on the boat or he left with them, and another person in the other group is saying no, that didn't happen. Their behaviors leading up to all this is very suspicious just in general, and they need to be ruled out, right? I'm not accusing them of it. I say let the evidence do what the evidence does. At the same time, it doesn't look good for any of the parties who saw him last. So for right now, I just think we need to just kind of continue to hear the evidence. The autopsy, the independent autopsy, is what we're really gonna hit home for us as far as what really is going on with his body. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was said that he did not take in any water. Okay. If that's the case and there's no water in his body, it means he did not drown. If that's the case, it means he was killed and then he was dumped in the water. All right. And so then somebody murdered him. This is absolutely a murder mystery. Okay. So shout out to you, Miss Abby, and thank you always for supporting the channel. You're always here. I really appreciate that. You guys, the link is dropped. I know this is not one of those traditional ones where I'm bringing you guys up and we're debating and people are trying to chew my head off in the chat. So, but if you do have anything you want to say or say your piece, you're more than welcome to come up. I will probably stay on live for another about 15 minutes. I will be taking questions in the chat. So let me just scroll up a little bit, see if any questions here. Someone says, can I verify on cam and then go off on the panel? Yeah, that's fine. I don't mind. Yeah, I don't mind. This is different. Yeah. So yeah, if you just verified yourself, that's cool. I don't mind. And you can go off when I bring up, you can take your thing off when you get on panel. That's cool. The reason why, I make, in most cases when I'm up here and I'm streaming, I make people stay on camera because sometimes they like to say crazy stuff. And, I'm a firm believer that people need to put their words where their face is, if that makes sense. I think having your face on here keeps people honest, and it keeps them accountable, and people tend to not say nothing too crazy when their face can be seen, if that makes sense. What evidence do you have they deleted messages, if you have a source? Great. The mothers, she was referring to the Snapchat. She believes the Snapchats were deleted. The problem with that is you got to check his settings, right? And I want to know how they got into his phone too, right? How the mother got into his phone. Maybe they don't know his password to his phone. If so, that's interesting as well. But now that they have his phone, they need to let an independent investigator do the download on that phone and get some information back on it. Let's see. What are the questions we got in here? Is this what someone said? Is this what national media uproar racism looks like in America today? Unfortunately, America, in my opinion, is not a racist country. It just has racist people in it, if that makes sense. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. It's a country that has a lot of ignorant people in it. Let me see. Someone said it's given what you did last summer. The first autopsy, they haven't released any information on the first autopsy as of yet. From my understanding, I haven't heard anything before the autopsy. They're already saying it looked like a drowning, which is crazy. Which is very crazy. Thank you, Chowder Tio. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. He said, what do you think the scenarios are if he drowned and no foul play? If he drowned, here's my thing though, the behavior of the friends gives me the impression that here's what I know about teenagers. And I grew up and spent some time around predominantly white people as well. And so I know kind of like this behavior. They have like this joke, the boys, they have this behavior where they like to be overly playful and very dismissive. And so I could see a scenario where they're I see you, brother. You can go ahead and jump off. I'll pull you up if you want to turn your cam off. All right. There's a thing where there's this overly playfulness, and honestly, I think that if it's not foul play, it could be kids goofing off and some type of accident. Like I said before, I think it's either an accident that's been covered up, if it's not foul play. But I do believe they either witnessed him die or he was killed, right? If he never made it on the boat, then there's possibility that someone else on the island is a suspect. And that makes it even harder to investigate. All right. What's going on, brother? How you doing? Welcome to the channel.
Pretty good, thank you, sir. See, there's 4,000 drownings a year in the U.S., right? 2,800 involve alcohol. At least 100 of those every year involve riptides. And most of those are males between 10 and 29, because that's who goes out in the ocean. You know, they said he took swimming lessons as a child. Well, the ocean doesn't care how good you swim in a pool. The ocean is a different animal.
That's so true.
And I ain't seen anybody beat it yet. Have you checked out the United Cajun Navies podcast yet?
No, I haven't.
These were two of the guys that were directly involved in the search, talked directly with the family, were there when the body came in. And they describe, it's a good description of the island and the hazards of that island. Man, Ben Crump is doing a lot of disservice, I think, to the family. Because
in what way you think?
He's making a lot of things up. Because there's a big difference between Snapchats that just aren't there and deleted text messages.
Agreed 100%.
You know.
Agreed.
You need internet service and cell service to send Snapchats. That island doesn't have coverage. If you go to the alerts for that island, it says to bring a marine radio with you in case you have an emergency. So how are you supposed to send Snapchats when you ain't got no service?
No, that's a good point, and that was my issue too. With I'm not a fan of Ben Crump. I'm not gonna lie. At the same time, I do understand the concern of why they feel like they might not get a fair investigation. Do you agree with their concern though, in reference to them feeling like or their lack of confidence in Mississippi investigating this?
Not really.
No, why is that?
Because of the town they live in.
Okay.
This is an upper middle class town on the coast. These families have money. This is a small, tight-knit community. This isn't Backwater Hills, Mississippi. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I think people are looking at the historical context of Mississippi as a whole. And I think even a small town, though it may be affluent and a nice community, doesn't mean that the unfair treatment, right, as far as how things are investigated.
Well, give me an example then. Give me an example of it then. In recent history.
Of what?
Of unfair treatment of a Black Death. What, Trey Reed? Where's that autopsy? Where's that private autopsy? Remember the Trey Reed case?
I think no, I'm not familiar with the Trey Reed
case. The guy who suspended himself from a tree on the college campus a year ago, and the family questioned the official autopsy, and Colin Kaepernick paid for the second autopsy, and then it went silent. They never released it.
No, listen, this is well, no, I'm not in disagreement with you in reference to we can look at things. We can look at things, right? And we could say we can look at things and say this is this is suspicious. This is suspicious. And because anytime we see things that remind us of some of the historical trauma, right, that Black people went through, we're all aware of the history. People question it, and I think that it's quite normal. You get what I'm saying? Like, do you understand why Black people would question that and not feel comfortable or confident with the investigation?
Honestly, in modern day,
or should I ask you? No.
And I'll put it this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
How long ago? When was the last known lynching in Mississippi?
That I'm not aware of.
Probably Emmett Till.
I'm not. Well, here's the thing. Is it when you say known lynching, it's easy to lynch someone and act like the person or create a scenario as if it was a suicide, right?
How? So how do you do that without the person fighting back?
It's very possible. It's very possible.
How?
It's possible. But here's the thing. In order to have that, in order to get that,
but it's not probable that the person would not fight back.
It depends, right? And here's why I say that. It depends, because if you have the assistance of the police, if you have the assistance of the judge, you have the assistance of the DA, you can make anything happen in this country, right? So you can create a scenario that did not happen. You can actually create evidence that did not exist. You can make things look like it is when it isn't. Okay, when you have all access to all tiers of the criminal justice system, that's a fact.
And half of those officials in Mississippi would actually be Black.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I don't know, but the question is this: the real question is it improbable for you to agree that it's very possible that you have corruption within the criminal justice system where they can abuse their power, abuse their authority, and actually,
of course,
commit a crime and cover it up, right?
Of course.
So, okay, so then I think with that in mind, unfortunately, you do have Black people who do believe that stuff still goes on, which it does. It does happen.
No,
it still does happen.
They can believe it, but they can't prove that it happens with race, specifically race.
No, it's been proven.
Where?
Been proven.
Where?
Yeah,
in recent. I'm talking since. Go back from Emmett Till forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So are you saying, let me just ask you this: are you saying that there is no more like issues regarding like white people in positions of power not committing like racial harm against minorities? Are you saying that doesn't exist anymore?
No, I'm not saying that at all. But show me examples of it. But show me examples of it. Because guess what?
If I show you
a Black judge in Mississippi got taken off the bench for doing racist crap to 2 white police officers.
Okay. I'm not in disagreement with that either.
Yeah, people of power abuse power. I
agree 100%. You're saying it's not always about race, is what you're saying.
Yes.
I agree with that too. But can you also agree that there are some cases where it is about race?
It can be, but once again,
so we say the same thing.
But show me, that's the thing though. I want to see.
I mean,
and people can never.
I agree. There's times when people can't, but there's a lot of evidence out there that suggests that, though, right?
Evidence suggesting something isn't proving something. If this kid comes back,
so let me give you this real quick, because I don't want to actually detour too far from the conversation, right? But let me say this: there was a case recently where there were 2 police officers and a chief recently. This is as of maybe like 5 years ago, and I can pull it up and I can give it to you. You drop me your email and I'll send you the information. We can have the conversation on the live stream.
Just tell me and I'll look it up, man. No biggie.
All right. They were found with KKK attire inside their home. And yeah, you can Google that. That'll come up. I promise you it'll come up. 2 police chief was found with KKK. I think he was a KKK Dragon Chief or something like that, one of those titles. But anyways, he was a police chief.
Okay.
The FBI has also released information also showing that there's a lot of racist officers inside law enforcement. So it's not anything that anybody is not aware of. We're well aware of it. But to your point, every incident is not racist, right? We know that for a fact. In some cases, it is about power, because I can share these same type of cases that we're talking about, this drowning situation. I can prove to you that it's also happened to white people, right? Someone who's less affluent. Okay. It's one of those things. What I've noticed within this country is it's me and you until it's me or you. Okay. And that's something you see a lot with people with power. So I've seen it happen on both ends. It happens to whites versus black, happens to whites versus white. So to your point, yes, every incident is not racially motivated. Some of it is just a power dynamic. Some of it is just, I have more resources, I have more money than you, and I can help my child get off of this crime. And if it's between your child and his child, both of you are white, the child with the most resources is gonna F over the other one. So I've seen the power dynamic play out in the criminal justice system. I've also seen it where it was racially motivated as well. So to your point, you admitted earlier that yes, it could possibly be racially motivated, and there's times it could not be racially motivated. I think the frustration in this country is that too many times we do cry wolf as it relates to race. In cases where it's not racially there or it's not racially motivated, and then there's some cases where there is, and some people don't want to admit that. All right, and so unfortunately, that's just the world we live in. But look up that that incident. I don't have it off the top of my head.
2026. This recent?
No, it was probably like 4 years ago.
Okay, because I found a Michigan case that
yeah, I'd have to.
A homebuyer said they saw a framed Klan application, but I can't find anything about Mississippi police.
Well, I mean, it's not just Mississippi, right? I think it's nationwide. Unfortunately, I think there's pockets of racist people all around this country, and they're integrated in all aspects of society. That's just the facts, right? And again, this is studied. It's been proven. The question is that racist person operating within your town and your community, waiting for an opportunity to exercise their racism, right? So again, I agree with you that every case.
All right. There's one problem with that, right? And this is the problem. It can't be just one person. It could be because not one person controls the entire investigation. You have to have the out-of-town medical examiner, who the head medical examiner in Mississippi is black. You have to have the police chief. You have to have the Marine officer who found the body. Everybody has to be in on it. Everybody.
I agree. Corruption works that way. And I've seen it happen, right? We've seen it happen on plenty of cases. So I agree with you 100%. I think those are great, valid points. I'm gonna bring somebody else up, and I appreciate your thoughts. Well said. And I appreciate you coming up on the channel. And let me know. I'll send you some stuff, man. Feel free to email me, man. I'll send you some cases. I just don't have any on the top of my head. But if you want to see some cases where we have the criminal justice system act racist against minorities, I can send you plenty where it's been proven, and then they've been held accountable as well. All right.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, it happens, right? It does.
It does happen. It does.
This would be damn near an entire town, including.
It don't take much.
Really? It don't take much to corrupt an elected sheriff, right?
Well, no. I mean, what I'm saying is, sometimes you only need a small group. I'm telling you this from experience. You only need a small group of people to be corrupt in order to execute, right, illegal activities. You can have 4 police officers, right? You have 1 supervisor, and you have 2 road officers, and there's a lot you can do with that. Okay, there's a lot of power in that. In a courtroom, you only need you need 1 judge and a shady DA, and guess what? There's a lot you can do with that. I think the problem is there's a lack of oversight in our criminal justice system. Okay. And because of that, it only takes a small group to create a lot of problems. You had one officer in New York City who was tampering with evidence. And when they found out, they had to throw out over 300 cases from one investigator alone. So it doesn't take much for corruption to spread. And it doesn't have to be racially motivated. It just means that you are operating illegally and unlawfully and you're abusing your authority. I'm telling you,
yes, and
it does
people
not take
usually
much.
do that for money, not race. Would you agree?
I would say that's not accurate. This is what I would say, though. I would say that is a part of it. But what I also say is what motivates you to want to go after a particular person could be rooted in a racial bias, for sure. Right? You see cases where you have
So black criminals going after Asians could be rooted in a racial bias?
But depends on the reasoning, right?
The reason is because everybody knows they deal in cash. Is that racist or is that just acting on known information?
It's stereotyping, right? Stereotyping doesn't necessarily make you a racist. It just means you're stereotyping. For example, we would have I worked in an area, we had a community that was predominantly Hispanic. So a lot of the suspects would actually rob the Hispanics because they considered them walking ATMs, right? Yeah. And so they would target them, right? They would target them for money, right? And so yeah, they're targeting based off of a stereotype, right? So if I'm black and I'm getting pulled over because I'm driving a particular type of car and I look a certain type of way, you're stopping me through a stereotype, right? And so does that make the officer racist? No, not necessarily, but it does mean you're policing through a racial lens, right? You're stereotyping based off of a look, right? Based off an assumption of a person. You're pulling them over, assuming that they are going to be having drugs or they're going to be committing a crime, and you are funneling your police attitude and your perspective through a lens of bias. And that's a real thing that a lot of officers suffer from, believe it or not.
Oh, no. Yes, they do. I agree 100%. But my problem mainly with this.
We agree more than we disagree.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But listen, brother, I appreciate you. I got to bring some other people up. I don't want them waiting too long in the back. Let's continue this conversation.
Can I say one thing real quick, and then I'll get going. My biggest problem is Ben Crump's involvement, because every time he gets involved, like, did you see that picture in the pool that he posted earlier? He posted on his Instagram a picture of a pool party taken from somewhere that has a black kid in a pool that supposedly was taken on July 5th. At 1 p.m.
Yeah.
Or at 1 a.m. July 5th. Why would he post unverified crap like that unless he is trying to push a narrative?
He likes to push narratives. That's why I don't like him. He's a racist.
And you know what that's going to do with this community? You know how that's going to damage this community and this family. Nobody is going to go near that family after this. Because God forbid they take their kid to the park and they get hurt, or, God forbid worse, and something happens. And now you got Ben Crump talking on national TV, talking mad crap about your family. Nobody's going to take that chance. They are going to be pariahs in their own community because of this.
Well, hopefully the truth and the evidence will kind of straighten all this out. And to me, that's what's more important. But don't stress too much about Ben Crump. But let me go to the next caller though, man. I gotta keep it cycling. Gotta keep it cycling.
All right, man.
All right, brother. Appreciate you. Are you too? All right. I like that. You guys, all opinions and perspectives are definitely welcome here. All right. I'm gonna bring up Barbara. We bring you up, and then Real Talk, I see you in there. I'm gonna bring you up, Miss Barbara.
Thank you. Good evening. How are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. I have some comments about.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for letting me come in. I have some comments that I wanted to make about this case, but to the caller that just hung up that was on for so long, the Ahmaud Arbery case is a specific incident of where Had Roddy not posted that tape, that they would have gotten away because the DA was complicit. So it's not like it didn't happen. He can also look at the goon squad from either Alabama or Mississippi, where the police shot the 2 black guys because they were in the house with a white woman. So if he tell him, call me, I will give you a list of cases that are where that it shows. I know you think that they're just racist people and it's not a racist country, and I respectfully disagree. It was built on racism. I don't think everybody's racist, but I do think that people have a propensity for it, and that they do different things. And just listening to the gentleman call, you can see that he's slanted, in his thinking, and that's not important. But I would advise him and implore him to look up some of the cases, and he can start with the Ahmaud Arbery case, because had that tape not been posted, they would have gone with a story that he was trying to rob someone and that they killed him because he was they got convicted by their own doing, because Roddy jumped in the chase, and because they posted that thinking it was cute, and because they knew that people would go along with it and think that that was cute too. Otherwise, he wouldn't have posted it. So that's my story for that. But again, look up the Goon Squad there. Look up the one with Robert Brooks in New Jersey. That's another one with, if the cameras weren't on, there would have never been any convictions. So like I said, I've got a list because this is what I do and I follow the cases. But as far as this case, I think that there's something, the biggest thing that gave me pause with the many things that did was the mother who's the judge, the stepmom who's the judge. She was so emphatic about not being there on Saturday. Well, were you there Sunday or Monday? So that made me go, oh, why would you be, my thing would have been saying, I don't know what happened. I didn't even go, I wasn't even there. I was home, but when she said that, and she was so emphatic about saying that she wasn't there for the 4th, that gave me pause. Now, I think that they probably did I think he did come back. I think he got on the boat. I can't imagine that with all the people I saw in pictures, all the people running around, even if he fell off the boat, there's so much noise people make when they're drowning. I unfortunately had a stepson that drowned about 20 years ago. There's so much noise that people make when they're drowning and all those things like that, I don't think that it's possible. I think he did come back, and I also think that they took that body back, because why didn't the body just float down the Gulf of Mexico? Why didn't it just float down? Why did it go right back to the island? It didn't have to go back to where it started from. If he drowned there, if he was out in the water, it didn't have to go there. It could have gone anywhere, but for it to be there, I'm waiting to see if he has sand in his lungs, if he has water in his lungs. I'm waiting for that. And there's no reason that the autopsy hasn't been released. This is not a new phenomenon that a whole city will get together to protect one person. And as far as the gentleman said,
that's very true.
I think sometimes people put Donald Trump is the president because people don't like, their fear of him and all the things that he's doing was better than having a black person in. So racism is strong in this country. And I'm not a person that's going to say, I was raised in New York. I'm not a person that's going to say that everybody's a racist, but I know racism is very prevalent in this country. And anybody that says it isn't is telling a lie. How else would Donald Trump? Donald Trump played racism. He played the race card hard. People say we play the race card, but they have the deck and they deal the cards all the time. And this is where we end up. So like I said, I think that the body was moved. I think the parents do know. One other thing that I want to tell you, when you said about him going to the house with the keys, there were some other friends that were with the dad, from my understanding, and they were getting ready, like, give us the keys, and he sent them back out. So it wasn't like it wasn't like they were getting, there were some kids that were with him. I think the lady that picked up the phone, maybe her sons and some other of his friends, because I'm not going to call the people on the boat his friends if something happened to him. And I think that he was saying, look, we don't need this, go back to the car. So that was what I heard and how I understood it, because they were like, I don't know where they are. And they were like, where the keys, man, where the keys at? And then one of them called the girl, and she says, oh, they're on it. Because if you're saying no, you're not going to call anybody that says, oh, the keys are in there. So one of the boys who was with, I think, that were there supporting him, called the girl, and she said they were on his Xbox. Now, I have a grandson. You can't put nothing on his Xbox without him seeing it, because that's what he does all day. So if it's on there, if I put a chicken on there, he's gonna say, did you see the chicken? No. I mean, I would just have to beat him, because I would know that he was lying. So I think there's so much more to it. I think that he did. I don't know about that pool picture, if it was true or not. I think it's possible that they came back for a party or something. I don't know. I don't usually like to go on unsubstantiated evidence, but I do in my heart think, and then the cleaning the boat at 3 o'clock in the morning at their house, that's a whole that's a whole different part to this puzzle. So I do think that I don't know if the father, but there should be records. They should be able to track their cell phones. There's so many tracking systems, but if you have a system that's working together, she's a judge. Her reach is far. She has a long reach. So I have no problem thinking that they should have tracked all the phones from the time they left, from the time he went missing. The fact that they came back and they didn't call anybody, and I know people are trying to flip it and say, if it were 3 black boys and 1 white boy and he was missing, see, them black boys would fight each other because they know their family would be all terrorized if they didn't bring him back. So it's different, and we shouldn't put those things out. But I know that if there were black boys, I know that everybody and their mama would be getting questioned right now. I mean, they've lost so much time in a week. They've lost so much time. So much evidence is missing in a week.
A lot of evidence.
And if they get cleaned out.
I've heard people talk about the cleaning of the boat. I haven't seen the news confirm that. I'm not sure where that came from. It kind of started like how when people said text messages were deleted and come to find out it wasn't text messages. That's why I always try to wait until I can confirm it through, like a legitimate source, because it's easy for information to just kind of get out there. One thing too is, as it relates to this case, or even I know I hear people talking about the previous caller, but there's a lot of people who feel like he feels, right? And there's, unfortunately, if there's 2 issues here in this country, even as these discussions happen, where you have a segment of our country that's looking at 2 things. One, what they know, and then what they think they know. What they believe is over, but what still happens in disguise, right? And there's a lot of things in this country that happens in disguise. I've seen unfair practices from people with money and power. I've also seen unfair practices with people who look at the audacity of a crime that's committed against them by a minority. And they look at it as an audacity. And I've seen the nerve, and I've seen the criminal justice system shift with the mentality of how dare you, right? And that racism is an examination of the heart, which is why for a lot of people they can't see it. It's an examination of the thought, right? Which is why a lot of people say they don't recognize it, because you can't read people's thoughts, so you don't know what's behind their heart. And what's behind your heart is the intent of why you did what you did. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It makes a lot of sense. But to say that this country isn't racist, we're black because that construct was started here in America. So just those things, just those things in themselves show you that they are. And again, I'm not one to think I have people that I know that are white that I'm friendly with, and I'm not gonna say I have a white friend. But to think that those things can't happen is so ignorant. It is just so ignorant to the 10th power that people think that doesn't happen. Like I said, we have a whole administration in Washington, D.C. based on because they dislike black people more than they like the stuff that we're going through right now, which is crazy. But I believe it's true, because you can't possibly want to go through the prices that we're going through, the turmoil, the wars, and the different things like that, and say that I voted for this man because I think he was capable. Because I don't believe that. But we have to wait for the evidence to come out, and I think that it will. But I think that the police should have been, the night they got back, the fact that they didn't call every black child I know has one thing in their phone, and that's mom. There's one entry on every black child's phone that I know is mom, because they know if they need help, that's the person to call. So anybody who had that phone could have called his parents, whether they had the number, and if they didn't have the number, and say, hey, we told Nolan to come, he didn't come. But there was something I think that came up later on, because I don't know what they thought would happen, but that's what young people, they don't think from part A to part B. They didn't know where this was going to go. But at that moment, they just said, oh, he stayed. The girl said she saw him get on the boat. She said that she saw him, and that's a verified statement. No, he didn't stay with me. Yeah, he got on the boat with them. So I don't think that he didn't come back. And I don't think that they trying to put something together quickly, and his mom being in the judicial system didn't think, well, we have to think something fast. We can say this. And do I think the parents are involved if something happened? I absolutely, without question do. His real mom has spoken out about something. So there's some more. She put a statement out, I think, yesterday. So there's some controversy with that. So I think it's going to be a messy case. Do I think we'll ever get all the information? I'm not sure whether we will or not. What I know is Black people should be very afraid of things and should be very cautious. I have a granddaughter that's getting ready to go to ASU in the fall, red state. So I'm ready. But if anything happens to my granddaughter right after I make my reservation for jail, I'm going to be looking for people. I can tell you that's what I'm.
Let me ask you this. If you said you have a daughter?
I do. I have 3 daughters.
If your daughter came to you and said, "Mom, this happened, and unfortunately, I took the life of somebody," are you turning your daughter in, or are you trying to keep her from accountability?
I would like to say my legal mind and my heart and my Christianity says that I would say, hey, this turned in. I would talk to her to see what happened, because things happen. Sometimes things happen accidentally and you're prolonging it by ignoring that it happened. And some things happen with intent. I would want to know if it was accidental, if it was intent, and then I proceed from there. I'm not going to sit here and say that I would automatically turn her in. Ultimately, I probably would. Something happened with my sister and her grandson in Florida a couple of years back, and she did turn him in because she knew if she didn't, that he would probably die. She knew that in Jacksonville, Florida, she felt that, I have to turn him in because I don't want him to die. I'd rather them try him. If he goes to jail, at least I can see him. But I think that if I don't, then that's the course of action. I don't feel that strongly about that with my girls. Not that Black girls aren't in danger as well, but she felt that she had to do it. So she did turn him in. He did do it. And she did turn him in because she valued his life and she knew that his life would be in jeopardy if they had to hunt him down and find him. So,
So she did it. She did it because she was afraid that the police were going to kill him.
They would have. I think they would have.
Is that what you're alleging?
Yes, absolutely.
See, but see, that's so. Yeah. So then she didn't want to turn him in then.
But she did. So we don't need to talk about whether she did or did not want to. She did. But it's
well,
not.
We examine in the heart. Okay. I give you that.
But she did that because her grandson was her heart, and she wanted to. So, and it's not, if you're a former police officer, you know that things happen. I mean, it's not like it's a secret or I'm telling you anything that you don't know or that you haven't witnessed firsthand. So it's not like I'm telling you. So she felt like that was the trust because he did do it. So she thought she could have sent him out here, to me. But not that I would have let him come in because I don't know. But she could have done, there were other things that she could have done. So her heart made her do the right thing, regardless of the reasoning behind it. She did it. She did. She did. You think that in the Ahmaud Arbery case that he would have turned his son in? He absolutely would not have. Like I said, that was the case, and that happens frequently. And people are slanted against stuff. Black people don't deserve justice, and we do.
Well, no one said that, but I'm just saying. I'm just saying. No. I'm just saying in reference to you brought up the father was going to turn his son in from the Ahmaud Arbery case. I work cases where Black parents did not turn their kids in. They've hid evidence. They prevented. You know what I mean? And so I don't look at it. I don't look at a black and white thing. I look at what is the individual. I look at an individual thing. It's a human thing. It's a morality thing. And that's what I look at.
Well, let me just say this
before.
Okay.
Go ahead.
For me, policing is.
I'm going to ask you this.
For me, policing is not a black and white issue. It's a black and blue issue because Black officers, as you know, also do things to Black people. So, so for Black parents not to turn people, but I'm sure they don't because they're worried about what will happen to their child. And I think you just have to weigh everything. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and say I absolutely would turn them in. I would get as much information as I could and do the thing that my heart and my faith told me to do.
If they're wrong though, and they told you I'm wrong, I killed this person, Mom. What should I do? You turning your child in or no?
I can't say that I would. I would think strongly about it, but I think as a mom, whether you do or not, it's what it is. I'm not one of the people that's going to say, "Oh, I'm definitely going to do this," because there are things that I do.
No, ain't no judgment.
Do I always
no
trust the
judgment.
police or the judicial system that, I may or may not be affiliated with? No. But, you do what you need to do, just like officers see other officers do stuff. Do you turn them in? Not all the time. So it's a
Listen,
double-edged
so
sword. Mm-hmm.
it's not a double-edged sword.
It is.
It's a right or wrong thing. So let me ask you, if someone,
Mm-hmm.
God forbid, harmed your daughter or unalived your daughter, God forbid, I don't even like to use that as an example, but would you want them to turn themselves in?
Like I already told you, I would be making a jail reservation, and I would, if they would, that would be the best thing for them to do, because I wouldn't have anything to live for. And I'm not even saying that facetiously. I am so serious.
Would
Hey,
you?
can I make a
I'm
reservation?
I'm asking you. Would you want the parent of
turn
your
them in?
child's killer to turn themselves in?
I would, of course.
So then why would you not want to do the same in return?
That's not the question you asked. You asked me that earlier, and I gave you my answer. And you asked me if I want them to turn it. But like I said, they can get turned in, or I can get them. We do what we have to do.
You see how them double standards? You see how those double standards work?
I don't know if I consider that a double standard, but I also have to understand that the perspective that each of us are looking at things from. I don't know.
Why is that not a double standard?
Why is that I would want them to turn their child in?
Why would you, if someone harmed somebody you cared about, you would want the parent to turn their child in? If your child harmed somebody, you're not turning your child in. You see how?
Maybe not. But the most important thing I want to do is for the police to do their job and investigate fully to the fullest extent of the law to make sure that they got all the evidence.
But listen though,
and if they did that with my daughter, if they did that with my daughter and questioned every single person, justice is slow when it comes to Black people. Investigation is slow when it comes to Black people, like we don't deserve it. It's very slow, and you can agree, you can agree or disagree, but we know that it is. We know that it is. Carmelo Anthony's case is about to be tried again. Carmelo is about to be tried again because they didn't put in all the evidence, and I think that something should have happened. I don't think that he should have got off like, okay, you didn't do anything. I'm torn with it, but I think all the evidence should have been allowed in court. I think all the video, all the stuff in that case is complicit. So,
all right, hold on. Do you think Carmelo Anthony? Let me ask you this, and then we're gonna roll to the next person because I gotta
appreciate you.
This one down. Do you think Carmelo Anthony is guilty of a crime?
I think he should have been found guilty of a crime. I think he should have been charged with a lesser charge, like maybe a manslaughter, which they had an opportunity to try, go for that. I think.
So you don't think he should be? You don't think he should be found?
I don't think.
You think what he did was self-defense?
I think that
you don't think it was self-defense.
I don't think he got up in the morning and said, "I'm gonna kill one of these big ass twins." I don't think that happened. I don't think that murder is to me is intent. Like you planned it, you intended to do it, you had all this stuff. I'm gonna sit in this tent. He's gonna come over here, and him and his brother's gonna push me. He's gonna get in my face, and I'm gonna stab him. So I've got all this written down. I don't think that happened. So that would preclude that murder. That would take that right off the table. So do I think it was self-defense? Do I think that you should match energy? I do. Do I think that was a lot? I do. So I'm torn with that. But do I think this young man should get 35 years when a young man stabbed a guy in the bathroom at school and got 10 years? I don't.
All right, Madea, I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
Thank you. This is my first time on your channel. Thank you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye. All right. Very interesting. Listen, all perspectives are welcome here, you guys. All perspectives are welcome here. I'm bringing my last caller and get your thoughts real quick. I didn't want to dive too much into the Carmelo Anthony because that's a whole different case. But how you doing, ma'am? Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Can you see me? I think your audio is not coming in.
Wait, let me turn this one off.
Oh no, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You can't hear me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can
Oh,
hear
okay.
you.
I'm in the
Can you
room,
hear
so
me
I
now?
can't hear myself. That's the thing. Okay. No, I'm not talking to you, dear. So, yeah. So I'm listening to all of these, and I've got totally thrown off. To answer your question,
Same.
if my
All
children,
right.
my 50-year-old daughter, or my 49-year-old son, or my 35-year-old daughter did a crime, yes, I would get an attorney to make sure that we had the proper, authorities in place. But yes, I would turn them in. They know that. They've never
Thank
done
you.
anything because they know that that's always been my stand. And I mean, I have
Yep.
officers that was in my family. And as the lady said before, thank God I had officers who were outstanding. My one cousin, he was 90 years old. We just buried him on my birthday, June 8th. And he always told them if it was something wrong, he said, you write your report and I'll write mine. And we'll see who gets called into internal affairs. That was his
There
motto.
you go.
So, I know that we do have that code but thank God I looked at 5 officers in my family. They were outstanding people. Now, and then the other gentleman, you said you didn't want to get into the Carmelo, but if we want to talk about a whole industry of officials who look like took part in railroading Carmelo Anthony, I would say Frisco, Texas had a fiasco of sort. So now with this case,
If you haven't seen my
we
video,
don't have
if you
all
haven't
of
seen
the
my video on
evidence.
it,
You're not talking
no,
to
go
me,
ahead.
huh? Because I can't hear you.
No,
I
no,
have
go
my
ahead. Go ahead.
other,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
and I can't place this, right? Fiasco of sorts. So now with this case,
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I think we have a delay in the audio on your end.
I can't hear you. No, go ahead. Go ahead. And I can't place this, right? Anyway, okay, I'll talk. I was getting ready to bring the other.
I think we have a delay in the audio.
Oh, okay.
I see.
So, but with this case, because we don't have all of the evidence, but as the young man prior to the lady was saying, there has been a young lady who she went through saying everything that happened at this party. Now she's implicated herself. I mean, she has full on come out and said, this is just newly released video of showing Nathan there at a party. She said a fight broke out, that he was actually bleeding, splitting up blood. And then the mother of the son, whose house it was, told them all to leave. And so I don't know, because I'm trying to think, you said it and I heard it, but it hasn't been confirmed for me that there was no water in his body. So there's no way that he could have drowned, and there's no water. So then I'm thinking though, but if they took him back out there, wouldn't someone have seen them, take him out? So it's all a mystery, that little part. But I'm so thankful to listen to you say they can track everything, the phone, all of that will be tracked. And it does look very, very suspicious. And the judge, she coming out, and that's her stepson. And so I know she's concerned about her other children that I guess maybe her and her husband have together, or maybe even some other children that she may have had before Wyatt. And so, but that just seemed, that was an intimidation move for her to come out saying the things that she's saying. And so I would just like your opinion on that as a judge, that she would come out saying some of the things was okay, I understand that. But now that there was nothing, and then for the officer to say that nothing here before they even had the autopsy. And then the other thing, wouldn't the parents have been able to see their son before they shipped him off? So that's a mystery to me. They shipped his body off for a second autopsy. They did have to use dental recognition to even determine that was that child. So was he to a pole to where they couldn't even recognize him? Because what is the procedure?
Your audio is breaking up a little bit. But I'm gonna answer that briefly. Then I'm gonna run because we're about to hit 3 hours. I don't want this to be too long, but there's so much going on with this case. Right now, the second autopsy, the benefit of that is really just transparency. Like I was telling the first caller, he's saying there's no reason for there to be any concern, that everybody's going to be honest. We're in a country now where, I guess, in his opinion, racism isn't a factor. Racist judges and lawyers and doctors and people, there's no racists in the criminal justice system in Mississippi anymore, according to the first caller. So there shouldn't be any concern for having a second or more transparent investigation. I disagree with that. I think that the concern is warranted. I think it's very warranted, especially in Mississippi. And there's been too many questionable things that have taken place where minorities have been stereotyped and also not given proper investigations and things of that nature. So it's unfortunate, but that is the reality, and it still exists. We still have sundown towns in this country. I don't agree with that. I think it's stupid. I think there's just a lot of uneducated people who still live in the past. It is what it is. But I think that their concern is warranted. The second autopsy is just for transparency, because unfortunately, it only takes one corrupt person in an investigation to cause problems. All right. It doesn't necessarily have to be the entire department. It doesn't have to be the entire Mississippi, whatever. But all it takes is one questionable person who might have ties with someone, who might be influenced by someone. And it could just simply be, I don't want my son to go to jail. And I'm a judge. I have access. I have power. I know this person. I know this person. Make it happen. It doesn't take much, you guys. I know this. I know, Miss Lady. I know your video and audio. I'm gonna drop you down real quick. But you guys, it doesn't. Corruption, whether it's racially motivated, corruption is corruption. Okay, it doesn't matter what's motivating the corruption. Okay, you're utilizing your power and authority unlawfully is a problem. It doesn't matter what the root reason behind it is. This doesn't have to be racially motivated. It could be just simply, I don't want my child to go to jail. I don't want my child to go to prison. And I have power and I have authority, and I can make sure that doesn't happen because I know this person, this person, and this person. To the caller, the first callers, to kind of acknowledge what he's saying, this could just simply be corruption. It doesn't necessarily have to be race motivated. He's absolutely correct, you guys. It doesn't have to be. Okay? It doesn't have to be. I only care about corruption and what's not being done unlawfully. I don't really care what your reasoning behind it is. You abuse your power. That's enough for me. Whether it's rooted in your, I don't want to see my child, just like the second caller, what'd she say? She said, if someone took my daughter's life, I would want that parent to turn their child in. But if you take my child's life, I'm not turning my child in. Okay. So again, you guys, we got to see the dynamic in that. Is that racially motivated? Well, guess what? When you start mixing white and black and start changing this and changing that, you guys, you get different answers from people. All right. You get different answers. Some people just don't like the idea that their life was taken by a white person. Some people don't like the idea that their life was taken by a black person. They're not that invested unless it's someone that they do not like from another race, you guys. I don't understand why people are, why they fixate so much on race like that. I don't care. You took someone's life that I care about, it's a problem. White, black, doesn't matter. If it's black on black, it's a problem. If it's white on white, it's a problem. A life was taken and it should not have been taken. It's a problem, you guys. All right. And so that's the issue that I have with always bringing race into it, trying to distract people with the race narrative. At the end of the day, we want to make sure people are moving with integrity. If you don't have integrity, okay, do you hate the color of my skin more than you love your job? Do you hate the color of my skin more than you love your family? You guys, that's what this is all about. At the end of the day, this is about self-preservation in this case. All right. It's about I don't want my child to be in trouble, and I'm willing to do anything and everything for them. All right. How you feel about the person, their skin color, all that, at the end of the day, what's actually happening. And to me, that's where the problem is. All right. But I'm glad that you guys got to see that double standard in real time, because that's a real problem. I'm turning my kid in We're going to have a nice conversation, and I'm walking your ass down to the jail. All right. The love's not lost. I'll be disappointed, but I'm turning you in. Just like if someone harmed someone I cared about, and their parents knew about it, I would want them to do the right thing, you know. And look, you guys, that's it for tonight. This is a great, great conversation, a great first stream back. I haven't streamed in a long time, so just getting used to everything and while putting it all together. Shout out to all the people who came up. I really appreciate you coming up and having the conversation. It really means a lot. We're hitting that 3-hour mark, so you know I can't stay too long. Shout out to the callers. Great conversations. You guys, I really love people's thoughts, and I appreciate everybody's perspective. Some of you might not agree with some of the callers. That's fine. But this channel, you guys, we allow people to speak their piece and to share their perspective. That's what's most important. We don't censor over here. I'm all about freedom of speech on this side. I'll ask just be respectful. And we're here to educate. We're here to learn. I'm here to learn as well. So again, I really appreciate all of that, you guys. We'll be doing more live streams. So stay tuned. If you're new to the channel, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. When more information comes out, we're definitely going to cover it and talk about it. All right. With that being said, you guys, let these truths find you where the lies have left you. Good night.